betting on the vaunted Big Blue franchise. The battle-weary quarterback and the old warrior of the defense were sidelined and frustrated. Enter a new head coach with an old formula. Mix 1 part aggressive youth with 2 parts playoff-tested veterans. And now this winning chemistry has awakened a sleeping giant. Under Dennis Green, the Minnesota Vikings have made the playoffs for the 2nd straight year. But they've come up short in the postseason, where they haven't stretched out a win since 1988. Now they've found the leader they were missing, a grizzled old bear with a cunning knack for finding ways to win. Meanwhile, the stingy Vikings defense has been stirring frost-coated memories of playoffs past. Today, here in the frozen Meadowlands, we'll find out which one of these teams will continue its January journey. Coming up, the Vikings and the Giants on the NFL Today. Giants fans warmed by playoff fever as they prepare to endure the frigid conditions out at Giants Stadium, where yesterday the grounds crews removed several inches of snow from the field. The weather today, bright sunshine, temperature of 22 degrees, add winds of 10 to 22 miles an hour, and you've got a wind chill factor near 0. Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel.
I'm Terry Bradshaw.
We welcome you to Wild Card Sunday here on the NFL Today. It's the Vikings and the New York Giants, and the winner will play the 49ers in San Francisco next Saturday. The Vikings are as hot as the weather is cold, heading into the postseason on a 3-game winning streak. The Giants finished the regular season with an 11-5 mark, but their win at Miami was their only victory over a team that finished with a winning record. Leslie Visser is on the field at the Meadowlands with more on today's game. Hello, Leslie.
Hi, Greg. The Cold War is not over. It's right here in the Meadowlands. The players say it isn't just the cold that's a problem, but also the wind, and that taking care of the football today will be their main concern. One thing they've done, in case it's a little slippery, some of them have changed to longer cleats. Well, Chris Dolman told me this is no worse than back home in Minnesota, where Dennis Green opened the doors to their practice facility all week, so they practice in sub-zero weather. Well, Jim McMahon has not started and won a playoff game in 6 years, but he's playing his best football over the past month, and a little while ago I asked him about it.
You know, we're starting to play better as an offensive unit. The offensive line's playing well. We're starting to run the ball a little better, and that definitely makes it easier to throw it.
The Giants did a terrific job last week on Alvin Harper and Michael Irvin. What do you have to do against the Giant defense?
Well, we can't turn the football over. That's a main concern, because they're not a team that will give you a lot of turnovers, and hopefully we can run the football. If we can do that, that should open up the passing game like it has the last few weeks.
Defensively, the question for the Vikings will be if all-pro tackle Henry Thomas can go today. He's had a high ankle sprain that's kept him out for a month. He came out this morning, he ran, he told me he feels great. He won't start, but he will play every other series. He'll be replaced by Ezra Tuaolo, not an easy name to say in the cold. For more on the Giants, let's go over to Jim Gray.
All right, Leslie, thank you very much. The Giants have some key injuries of their own. Jumbo Elliott is out for the season. He's going to have some back surgery. He's going to be replaced today by Eric Moore on the offensive line. However, Moore is suffering from a bad ankle. Now, Dave Meggett also has a bad ankle. He hurt himself against the Cowboys last weekend. He had a discussion with Dan Reeves and worked out for Reeves about an hour ago, and it was determined that he will be able to play. Now, the big concern also for the Giants is of their best cover guy on defense, Mark Collins. He hurt himself in practice. A short time ago, I spoke with Collins, and I asked him how he's feeling.
Yeah, I feel pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot, and we'll see what happens.
Do you feel as though the Vikings are going to pick on you because of your condition?
Yeah, they'll be a fool not to pick on me with the injury and all, but I'm expecting it.
Now, for the Giants, should they lose, this could be the last game for Lawrence Taylor. He is looking into a front office job with the Giants or maybe some broadcasting possibilities. As for Phil Simms, well, New Yorkers woke up on Friday with the news that Simms might possibly retire after the season. Well, I spoke with Simms, and he says that's not the case.
I'm definitely coming back next year. I'm saying that now because I just want to get that out of the way, and I absolutely coming back. I think after this year, being with this coaching staff and the team, how it responded to everything, it's exciting, and I want to be a part of it.
Well, there is one guy who is very warm. In fact, he's hot out here, and that's kickoff specialist Brad Dalwiso. He is suffering from the flu. He was just released from the hospital about 36 hours ago. He's sweating profusely. I spoke to Dalwiso. He says he will play. He may spend the game, however, inside the clubhouse and only come out when he has to kick. That's the story from here at the Meadowlands. Greg and Terry?
All right, Jim, you know how sick you have to be sweating outdoors at Giant Stadium. Now, Scotty Graham made a name for himself running the football coming down the stretch of the regular season for the Vikings, but their wide receivers have to be the key.
Yeah, when I talked to Mike Nolan, defensive coordinator for the Giants, the most concern was the wide receivers of the Vikings, the Carter boys. If he could take them out of the football game, that was the thing he would do to help him win. Now, if this is any indication of the job that Corey Raymond up here and Mark Collins down here, the two cornerbacks for the Giants, they did an excellent job last week against the Cowboys in their cover two. Two safeties deep, corners jamming. And now let's turn the play loose. Let me show you what happens. Tight end right here, Novacek out. Notice the corners come up. Coming up, forcing the receivers to the inside when you take it. Stop it right there. When you come inside, now these guys in the back here only have to cover about 40 yards instead of the 53 yards. Turn it loose again. There's a pass out to Novacek, a 2-yard game. Look, no holes in the middle. Everybody is covered. Excellent job by the cornerbacks of the Giants, Greg. The real key today for the Vikings, if they can get a halfback down the middle or their tight end Jordan down the middle, they'll take the pressure off their wide receivers, and Jim McMahon can do a lot of motion, throw play action, and throw the deep in routes, and that's the key.
All right, Terry. Yesterday at the Silverdome, the Green Bay Packers, who had lost the NFC Central title game to Detroit a week earlier, tamed the Lions in the rematch. Trailing 24-21 in the game's final minute, everybody in the Silverdome except the Detroit defensive secondary knew that Brett Favre was looking for Sterling Sharp. There he was, and the Pack marches on.
I don't want to say hope and a prayer, but that's really what it was. And I knew where Sterling was going to be, and he knew not to give up on me, because who knows where I'll throw it. Sometimes I never know. But, you know, I'm just excited for this team because it was a hell of a win.
This is probably as low as I've ever been as a player, and it's going to take a while, obviously, to get over this one because it's a playoff game and the way you get beat. You know, it doesn't seem right, but that's ball, that's life.
Next Sunday, the Packers will play the Cowboys at Texas Stadium. Our coverage begins at noon Eastern Time. The big question for Dallas revolves around running back Emmitt Smith. Smith, who has won the league rushing title for a third straight season, suffered a grade 1 separation of his right shoulder last Sunday against the Giants. With the time off and the rest, however, Smith says his shoulder feels better.
We have many more days to go before we have to get on the field and actually play. So we're just going to continue to take one day at a time, continue to ice it and work it. I'm getting some range of motion back. I'm moving my arm a little bit, and so there's still a chance.
Joining us now live from Cowboy Center is Dallas's all-pro quarterback Troy Aikman. Troy, welcome. First of all, you played the Green Bay Packers earlier this year and you beat them. Are they a much different team now than when you saw them earlier?
Well, I think probably right now they're playing with a little bit more confidence than what they were back when we played them earlier in the season. And watching yesterday's ball game against Detroit, they're really a team that never quits, as they demonstrated yesterday. They continue to play ball, and Brett makes a big plays for them, and they were able to pull that one out. So it should be a good ball game come this week.
Troy, earlier in the season when Emmitt Smith was holding out, your team started out 0-2. Now with the possibilities that Emmitt Smith with the injury isn't going to be able to play in this game, what kind of added pressure does that put on your offense?
Well, there's no question that we're a much better football team when Emmitt is in the lineup. And right now, we don't think that it's a possibility that he will not play next week. I just spoke to him about 10 minutes ago. He says he's feeling much better. The shoulder's starting to come around for him. And we fully anticipate him playing. But if in fact he does not, then you know, we're going to have to rely on some other people. And that's the mark of a good football team, is to seeing who's going to be able to take up some of the slack.
Troy, what are teams doing to your wide receivers that's forcing you to have to throw so many little short passes out of the back, you know, backs out into the flat? What are they doing?
Well, against the Giants last week, they run the two deep coverages, as you were saying earlier in the show, and they really eliminated a lot of our outside stuff to our wide receivers. We tried to run some square ins, get them in front of the safeties. Because of the wind, the balls were holding up, and we weren't able to be real successful with those. That allowed us to come underneath two Darrell Johnston and two Emmitt. Those two alone caught 16 balls between them. So I don't think it's so much that other teams have been doing consistently against us. I think it was more a style that
that New York plays against us, and they did a nice job with it, and we had to be very patient.
Troy, thanks much for your time. Good luck to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Later this afternoon, the Raiders host the Broncos in the final AFC wildcard game. The winner plays at Buffalo next Saturday. Denver and L.A. met in the Coliseum just last Sunday, with Los Angeles needing a win to make the playoffs. Jeff Hostetler rallied the Raiders from 17 points down, and he hit Alexander Wright for a touchdown on the last play of regulation to tie the game, which the Raiders won in overtime on a field goal. With the latest on today's game, let's go out live to the Coliseum where Matt Millen is standing by. Matt.
Well, guys, because both these teams scored over 50 points against each other in the regular season, don't expect to see a lot of changes in the offensive game plan. And since neither team really has any kind of a running game, all the pressure for this game falls on the quarterbacks Jeff Hostetler and John Elway. Now, in Hostetler, the Raiders have finally found themselves a passer who's accurate and he's also experienced. Don't forget, the last time Haas was in the playoffs, he took the Giants to a Super Bowl win, and he hasn't forgotten exactly what John Elway already knows.
I think last week's atmosphere to the game was as much like a playoff as it can get, and you know, once the ball snapped, I think we'll be forgetting about the playoffs and not forgetting about the fact that it's sudden death and we need the win.
No one really cares that this is even a playoff game. We get a second shot at the Raiders back-to-back, and they beat us twice in 2 close football games, and we're disappointed that we didn't come out with a win last week. So playoffs aren't even on our mind. The only thing that's on our mind is beating the Raiders.
The Raiders' biggest asset is knowing that John Elway can beat them. Actually, that can actually kill them. So what has to happen for the Raiders, they've got to keep Elway inside the pocket. Once he gets outside and starts to improvise, he absolutely can kill him. Look, I got to tell you, down here in Southern California, it's absolutely beautiful. It's nice and warm. I'm warm, and you're not. Guys?
We're real thrilled to hear that, Matt. Thanks very much.
Makes
All
me
right. Now, continuing on with our coverage today. And yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs advanced in the AFC playoffs with a 27-24 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Joe Montana was forced out of that game briefly with bruised ribs. Team trainers tell us Montana is fine and will start next Sunday when the Chiefs play the Oilers in the Astrodome. Still to come, we'll be joined live here by the Redskins' Charles Mann. And up next, Leslie will have a look at the guys who are making the old Purple People Eaters proud, the Vikings' top-rated defense, all of that and more when we continue live from New York on this edition of the NFL Today.
This NFC Wildcard edition.
This is a live look outside the Meadowlands where the Giants faithful are gathering and where Leslie Visser is standing by with a look at the men hoping to break Big Blue hearts today. Leslie?
Greg, the Minnesota Vikings have the top-rated defense in the league, a sack-happy front line who are coached by a guy named John Teerlink. This is a guy who's seen the movie The Magnificent Seven more than 3,000 times, so he can quote from it for motivation. He wants his players off the ball while he is a little off the wall.
Talking about you and me and the game people play now.
These games are Minnesota's defensive line drills, which led to 45 sacks by a group of guys who consider every down a passing down. Their guru, the unbridled Teerlink, uses ideas he once sweated over.
We came up with the hoops in the 80s, and I was finishing concrete out in Arizona. And
you were pouring concrete?
Yeah, pouring concrete. The time and temperature is 125 at 125. We thought, you know, all the stuff that a lot of times as coaches you do isn't related to football. You know, we're rushing the pass, we're always leaning this way, or we're leaning this way, or we're coming over, or we're coming under. But when you run, they have you running like this. We don't do that.
To create the ultimate pass rusher, Teerlink practices with a green ball, figuring that if his players can see it against the green field, they'll recognize the brown pumpkin immediately.
Well, it's simple. They all do the same thing. Get to the
pass.
Chris, people have called John, I believe eccentric is the word that's been used. Is that true?
Eccentric? More or less a nut.
What does eccentric mean?
3 syllables.
Yeah.
I don't think, matter of fact, I know there's not another team in the league that do things the way we do them. Because when we do the things that we do, no one can do better than us. Then we do the things that we do.
That's right. You told me, John, that you've had a lot of great defensive players, but that Henry's among the best that...
When did I tell you that? Hank's got the run aspect, the pass aspect, and the ability to call the games.
Can Henry do it on 1 foot?
He's going to have to, because we're not going to help him.
I have 2.5 feet, actually. See, this is an extra padding there just to make sure I can do it. So I'm all set. I'm ready to go there.
Do you think most teams, if they saw how many sacks you guys had, would think, well, that team must blitz a lot? And don't you generally not blitz?
Yeah, the last 3 games we had 2 blitzes. And we don't need to blitz. We get pressure with the 4 guys. And then it lets us do other things in the back end.
The emergence of all-pro tackle John Randall, whom teammates call Motor because he's moving all the time, has created problems for offensive linemen. Can they risk blocking him one-on-one?
These guys taking on a double leaves me with a single block, so it gives me a chance to open up my game and just show what I can do.
Chris, for you, Jumbo Elliott's not going to play. What do you know about Eric Moore?
I know very little about Eric Moore, but, you know, in the same token, he knows very little about me. My job is just get to the quarterback, and if, you know, if Dan Reeves has to line up out there, then I'll rush against him.
And the game people play now.
Do you want to share with us for that old man, Phil Simms, how you're going to rush him?
Over and over again.
On the land, in the air, and on the sea. Every way we can.
Teerlink told me he wants his epitaph to read, "My men came off the ball." Well, there could be a new future for the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings. Tony Dungy is once again being rumored to be linked to a head coaching job in the coaching carousel that is the NFL. This time he's being linked to Atlanta. He told me this morning that he's flattered by the attention, but that so far no one who's counted has called. Greg and Terry, stay warm.
All right, Leslie, you hold on to your hats. When we come back, we'll be joined by the Redskins man for all seasons, Charles Mann, and we'll take an inside look at today's NFC wildcard game. Incoming right after this.
Wake up!
It's our pleasure to welcome the 4-time Pro Bowl defensive end of the Washington Redskins. Charles Mann is our special guest, and Charles knows these 2 teams well, having played the Vikings just last week, and of course the Giants are in your division. But first, let me ask you about Richie Pettibone, the first coach fired after the end of the regular season. Were you surprised by that?
I was surprised it happened so quickly. I thought at least he'd get another year, but we all know this is a business, and if you don't perform, you know, then you're liable to lose your job. And one thing that people don't realize is we had a bunch of injuries this year, and one little stat that really weighs heavily is our offensive line, they missed a total of 57 games, players on our offensive line. On our defensive line, we had 48 games missed by our defensive line. That's over 100 games missed by our offensive and defensive line. And that, you know, that pretty much tells the story of a 4-12 season.
Norv Turner is the hot name around the NFL right now. What would you think of him coming in and being the new head coach of the Redskins?
First thing I think of is he's a relatively young man, and we have guys on our football team almost as old as he is.
Okay, now, the game today, Vikings against the Giants. The guy who protects Phil Simms' blind side, Jumbo Elliott, is out of the game. Eric Moore is there. Most likely he's up against Chris Dolman.
Chris Dolman, that's a key matchup. Chris Dolman will have a field day if they don't do something to protect Phil Simms' backside, maybe with a tight end, maybe with a running back chipping on him as he goes out in the flat for a pass as well. So they have to do something to contain Chris Dolman.
Terry, what about when it comes to protecting Jim McMahon?
Yeah, well, you know, I want to go back. When I talked to Phil Simms, that's exactly what they're going to do, Charles, is put a tight end on him and put a back on him, and they're going to reverse one thing. Instead of sending the tight end down the middle this week, Greg and Charles, they're going to keep a back down the middle, keep the tight end in on Dolman, and then use the tight end as a relief valve. Vikings, on the other hand, are going to do a lot of movement offensively. Tom Moore, the offensive wide receiver coach, said a lot of movement with their offense, a lot of motion. They will play action, and the side that they play action to today, they will run a post to that side and then take the deep end on the other side and try to hit the deep end.
All right, what about the pressure on Jim McMahon? His offensive line has not allowed a sack in 14 straight quarters now.
Just because they haven't allowed a sack doesn't mean that he hasn't been banged around and hit. Last week when we played them, the first thing we said we needed to do was to put pressure on him, to hit him, to bang him around, knock him around. He's had a lot of injuries in his career, and if you can hit him and beat him up a little bit, he may not play as well.
Okay, you think Steve Jordan is a big key to this game?
Steve Jordan is, because in the cover 2 that I showed you, if those safeties don't have anyone down the middle to get their eye, get their attention, then they can double the wideouts like they did against Dallas, because Dallas sent nobody down the middle. So the safeties come over, they double the wide receivers, take them out of the game. One thing you will see today with the movement, no vertical passing. The Vikings will do nothing up the field and out. They will do everything. It will be across the field, cross and cross and across, lots of motion.
Charles, you guys put the clamps on Scotty Graham pretty well last week. Do you think Minnesota can run against the Giants?
That's what I wanted to say. You know, you're talking about all this stuff they're going to do down the field.
Can't run.
They're not going to get a chance if they can't run the football. They have to be able to run the football. Scotty Graham has got to have a career day. He's a young guy, and that's asking a lot of him. But if he's not able to run the football, they're not going to be able to pass the ball down the field.
Okay. Speaking of career days, does LT have a career day today?
Charles thinks he'll have a career day. I always think he has a career day.
Yeah. I think that this could be his last home game, as y'all mentioned earlier, and I think he has to have a big game. I think he's excited about today, and he's going to go out there and do some fantastic things.
All right, gentlemen, a timeout here. When we come back, we'll take you out to the Meadowlands where the players are about to be introduced. Stay tuned. New York Giants being introduced out at the Meadowlands. Let's go out there now.
Number 93, Mike Fox. Linebacker, number 57, Corey Miller. Linebacker, number 54, Carlton Bailey. Linebacker, number 94, Michael Brooks. Linebacker, number 56, Taylor. Cornerback, number 25, Mark Collins. Cornerback, number 39, Corey Raymond. Strong safety.
We will see you back here at halftime, but we're coming up on Game Time on the NFL today. The Vikings and the New York Giants in the NFC wildcard game. Enjoy, everyone.
Ray Jackson.
To WBBM TV, Chicago.
What a day for a daydream. What a day for a daydreaming boy.
To some, Jim McMahon is a loose cannon, an enigmatic character with an arm that's shot and a body that's taken a few too many beatings. But his opponents know him by just one word: winner. Despite a monumental effort last week, the New York Giants came up short. Now the questions arise. Where do they go from here? Was this the last gasp from a mighty champion? In a battle that left many counting their parts, did the Giants leave some behind? Or did they serve notice that they're ready to challenge the NFL's elite? It's sudden death time. The winner extends their season, while the loser gets a head start on winter hibernation. Giant Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The NFC wild card match between the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants. The weather, temperature 23 degrees, but with the wind chill, it feels like it's 5 below. And it is windy, and it is cold. I'm Pat Summerall, and the questions have been answered. The winner goes to San Francisco. It's that simple. No more standings to talk about. With me, John Madden, and let's talk first about the Giants. John, how do they approach this game?
Well, I think they ought to approach it the way they approached the Dallas Cowboys last week, and specifically the way they approached the Cowboys in the second half of last week's game. I think that's probably the best football that the Giants played in the last 3 years, and that means a tough running game. Rodney Hampton, banging the thing in there, the big offensive line. Phil Simms, the play pass, getting the ball out there, solid defense, good kicking game. And I think that'll be enough to win today's game because the Minnesota Vikings are not a high score.
And they come into the game on somewhat of a roll. They've won 3 in a row. McMahon is healthy. How do they approach it?
And McMahon is probably as hot as he's been in a long time. He hasn't been sacked in 14 quarters, so they have that going. They have the 2 Carters outside, but I think in this weather with this wind, it's still going to be a running game. And they have to have Scotty Graham running the football and be successful there, and then maybe even do it on defense. They're the #1 defense, and they're a defense that makes things happen, and I think their defense is going to have to get the ball, get some turnovers, get some field position, and maybe even get a score for him.
All right, John, and first of all, a strategic move by the Giants. This was discussed a moment ago. The Giants won the toss and elected to kick off. The Giants are going to kick and take the wind. And it doesn't look like much right now. But believe me, you get down on the field, and that wind is a significant factor.
And Dan Reeves has had all week to think about this. He's been out here. They haven't practiced out here, but he's came out every day, and he'd come out and look and feel the wind and know that he doesn't want to start the game having to go into this wind.
And right away, the ball blows off the tee. Daluiso will kick off with the wind. And the way he kicks, and you get a look and an indication, not a true indication, with those banners which are tacked to the sideline. It's going from our right to left, and strong. Daluiso's kick goes to Ismail at the 2. And he gets to about the 22. The Vikings quarterback by the veteran Jim McMahon. In front of him, Bernard Daphne, McDaniel, Schreiber, Kalis, and Tim Irwin. Those who'll handle the ball along with McMahon, Scotty Graham, the runner, Anthony Carter, Chris Carter, Ismail, and Steve Jordan, the veteran tight end. And they'll have it 1st and 10 at their own 23. We'll check out the Giant defensive lineup in just a moment. McMahon, healthy, serious, and on a roll. Scotty Graham hit behind the line of scrimmage by Bailey. And here is the Giant defense. They start with 3 up front: Fox, Dillard, and Hamilton. 4 linebackers: Lawrence Taylor, Michael Brooks, Bailey, and Miller. And the secondary, Raymond, Jackson, Guyton, and there was some question about Collins, but he starts. 2nd and 10, no gain for Scotty Graham on 1st down. Mark Collins, what a year he had. 2nd and 10, they go with 3 wide receivers, 4 wide receivers now. They're going to try to spread them out for Graham. Graham, a gain of about 7, stopped by Bailey again.
Yeah,
with
that
an
was the
assist
thing
from Brooks. Excuse me.
you were talking about, Pat, is spreading them out. And we see this is their idea. 2 receivers here, 2 receivers here. Now that spreads out the defense, you see, and then they want to come back and attack inside, and that's exactly what they did. Spread them out with the 4 wide receivers, and then get a bunch of guys to go out with those wide receivers, and then still run the ball to the inside.
3rd and 2, Jordan switches sides. Remember, they're operating against the wind. McMahon in a hurry, incomplete. For Anthony Carter.
And this is where you're really going to see the effect on the wind. Is we know that it's tough on quarterbacks. If there's any weather the quarterbacks hate, it's throwing into the wind. But the guy that hates it worse than the quarterback is the punter. And if we're going to see the effect in the wind, you're going to see it on this play. This will be the first time you'll really see the effect.
Harry Newsom will punt for the Vikings. And standing out on the midfield portion a moment ago, the ball just dies off the side of his foot, and just as you said, what an effect on the punter. It's out of bounds, and the Giants will take over at their own 42.
Well, we know that Jim McMahon wouldn't like it, but Harry Newsom, the punter, would hate it. And you know that it's in his mind there. I think that's part wind, the other part was shank.
I agree with you.
But look at that ball. I mean, the ball doesn't do anything. It doesn't spiral or anything. You just put it into the wind, and it just kind of flops.
It's just a flutter. 1st and 10, Giants at their own 43. They go with 3 tight ends to begin with, and Rodney Hampton, the running back. Hampton gets the first carry and gets a good gain of about 6. Jack Del Rio the stop. Phil Simms, an outstanding year for Phil. Opens at quarterback. Moore in place of Jumbo Elliott, Roberts, Oates, Cratch, and Riesenberg in front of Phil Simms. Hampton, Bunch, Callaway, Jackson, and Cross. That'll change a lot on almost every play. Callaway comes wide left. Jackson is split wide right. 2nd and 4. Simms to Hampton. He'll get the first down and more. To the 45. Here's the Minnesota defensive lineup now. Dolman, Randall, Tuaolo, and Roy Barker. Strickland, Del Rio, and Jenkins, the 3 linebackers. They play a 4-3. McMillan and Lee, the corners, gambling corners. Vincey Glenn and McGriggs, surprisingly good safety men. Surprisingly not because of their ability, but because you don't hear that much about them. The Minnesota defense has been tough in the first quarter. Simms, strike to Callaway. Inside the Viking 30, about the 27.
And that's what Phil Simms was looking for, Pat. He was talking about it yesterday, that seam pass, where you just throw right up the seam and in the seam of a zone. You'll see it here. He's going to look to the left. He has Callaway going right up the seam. You see right up the numbers, and the seam is between the cornerback, the outside defensive back, and the safety.
18-yard pickup. Nobody throws that pass better than Phil Simms.
He's the master.
Hampton to the outside to about the 17. Vincey Glenn made the stop.
That's a form of the counter. Watch William Roberts. Here's the right guard. He's going to pull. You see, along with number 84, Aaron Pierce. You see them both start out there. Boom, right there. He gets one. Boom, he gets a little one. And those were the blocks that got Rodney Hampton to the outside. Roberts got a good one. Pierce got a, kind of a half deal there, but it was enough to get Hampton out.
2nd and short. Pierce in motion. Hampton to about the 12. Good blocking up front again.
And this is Giants football, running the ball and then throwing that seam pass just to get your plays going, having your mixture. Now, this one here, just start on a double team. This is just man blocking. And then the tailback, Rodney Hampton, just picks a hole. If the hole is there onside, he takes it. If not, he cuts back. That time it was right in there behind William Roberts.
Hampton already 27 yards on 4 carries. 5 carries. That'll hurt his average. Dolman around his ankles.
See, on the play before, he was able to take it straight ahead. And that time he tried to take it straight ahead. There was nothing there, so he had to bend it back. And when he bent it back right into Chris Dolman.
So Meggett and Jared Bunch check in for the Giants.
This is where the Giants want to attack the end zone here on this 2nd and 3rd down. They don't want to have the win and then just go for field goals.
2nd and 10. Meggett's the man in motion. Beg your pardon, it was Callaway the man in motion who made the block or attempted to. Not much. Lamar McGriggs up to make the stop. There's Meggett.
Yeah, I think that on that play, Pat, 2nd down would have been the time to go to the end zone because you made the decision to kick off. So you wanted the win in the first quarter. And if you're going to take the win, if that's going to be part of your decision, then offensively you have to play aggressive.
You better get some points. Dan Reeves bound up against the cold. Looks like a different man.
Yeah, he took the hat off for the national anthem. He had that other thing underneath. I didn't even know who it was.
Yeah.
That get up and the sunglasses on. But he needs an attack play here.
And Simms will try to furnish it. Into the end zone and out. Intended for Mark Jackson off his fingertips. He would have been out of bounds out of the end zone anyway. Treadwell in the field goal unit head onto the field.
I think they had good mixture there until they got down there in this series of downs. You see, now it's tougher. Now the Vikings are just playing everything. They're just playing the end zone now. I think 1st and 2nd down would have been the downs to go after that end zone or maybe go on all 3, again, especially with the wind.
Horan with Treadwell trying from 26 yards. Horan the holder. Giants have a 3-0 lead with 8:35 left in the first quarter. Giants Stadium, the NFL wild card game, the Vikings and Giants. In the wild card games, the team scoring first has lost the last 4 games. Yesterday, Green Bay beat Detroit. They'll play Dallas next week. Kansas City in overtime over Pittsburgh. Galoiso with the wind again. Ismail 5 yards deep in the end zone, and they'll bring it out to the 20. And the Vikings move back on offense again.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League Conference Wildcard Game is sponsored by Chevrolet Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. Coors Light, reach for the silver bullet, the right beer now. American Airlines, something special in the air. And by AT&T, we help put your world within reach.
Back at Giants Stadium, Pat Summerall with John Madden. Cold and windy, with the wind chill factor below 0. Looks can be deceiving, can't they?
And the Vikings are doing that again, Pat, where they're spreading this Giant defense out and probably again trying to attack the middle with it.
Jim McMahon back to throw. Ismail broke 1 tackle and turned what looked like no gain or a loss into a +8 or 7.
Yeah, I think as you watch Jim McMahon walk over here, see, he has to come over and see the next play. I think that one was an audible. Again, they had the 4 wide receivers. They spread them out, and then Jim McMahon made a signal with his hand, and I think that was probably an audible, and I wouldn't have been surprised if it changed from a run to a pass.
2nd and 4. McMahon to Scotty Graham. Graham breaks into the secondary for a Viking first down outside the 35. Meyer and Guyton and Greg Jackson converge to make the stop on Graham.
You see what it does, Pat? By spreading them out, then they just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if they got 5 guys in the box, then they think that they can attack it by running. You see, and by putting those 4 wide receivers, again, that just leaves 5 guys in there against the 5 blockers, and the Vikings like that to run against. They like that matchup.
1st and 10, Minnesota. Graham slapped down at the 40 by Stacy Dillard.
You know, Scotty Graham grew up around here, and he said that he was always a Giant fan, and he was a Joe Morris fan. They said that he knew that, you know, he was in high school and he was about 5'7", and he knew he wasn't going to ever be a big running back. So he said, if I was going to have an idol, I better pick a short one. Pick Joe Morris.
He even follows the same weightlifting, weight training regimen that Joe Morris did.
Unbelievable. He said he squatted 650 pounds.
That's a lot. But he did say that. McMahon in the middle to Steve Jordan. After the wrestle, he's down at about the 44, stopped by Bailey and Dillard.
You know, McMahon is such a competitor that they say, well, the other guys are taking the wind. You got to throw into the wind, and he wears gloves. He does everything that a quarterback shouldn't do. He wears a visor. Now, how do you see through that thing? He wears gloves. How do you throw with gloves on? He got big old, you know, undershirts on under there that you can't throw. He does everything wrong and still throws it out there.
Roger Craig in the backfield now, and the handoff is to Roger Craig. Fighting for first down yardage, and I don't think he got it. He got close. They will probably have to measure this.
I tell you, watch number 76. Watch Tim Irwin here. Again, you got to get movement. They're going to run in here. They start a double team. Tim Irwin picks off his guy right there at the end. then he knows Roger Craig needs a first down. You see Tim Irwin right at the end there. He gave him that one little extra push. That's what a 13-year veteran tackle does, who's also a lawyer in the offseason.
I was out on the field before the game, a couple of hours before the game, with Tim Irwin. He said to me, "What are you, nuts? You don't have to be out here. Get back up there where you belong."
And Tim Irwin didn't push Roger Craig far enough, and Denny Green is doing the proper thing. I know that, you know, you get in a game like this, and as he always says, you plan your work and you work your plan, and emotionally you'd say let's go for it, but during the week, you know, if you get in this situation, you have to punt.
Newsom's first punt against the wind was only 27 yards. This too against the wind.
And it was a flopper. I'll bet you one. I don't know how far it'll go, but I bet it doesn't spiral.
Flopper, I like that. It's going to start flopping right now. Not bad, however. Fair catch by Meggett down at about the 16. 39-yard punt against the wind. .5:26 left in the first quarter. The referee is Ed Hockley, who we've seen a lot of this year in big games.
Yeah, and Dave Meggett was over there talking to one of the officials, and he was talking about the difference between a fair catch signal and being able to shield your eyes. Meggett was saying that if he just puts his hand up there to shield his eyes, don't call that a fair catch.
First down, Giants at their own 17. Sims to Hampton. Just short of the 20. Stopped by John Randall.
You know, if you look, here's the cocked nose tackle in here, you know, and he's cocked pointed in towards the center. And if you run at him, you got to double team him. If you run away, you can just do this to him. See, so he does cause a problem right there. You see when you run at him, that's Henry Thomas. And again, it causes a problem because it took two blockers, although Bob Krabs did a pretty good job on it.
2nd and 7. Sims. Jackson out of bounds. Temperature plus 20. That does not include the wind chill factor, which makes it feel like it's below 0. And yes, it does feel like that.
Yeah, I think like we were talking, I was talking to Tim Irwin out there in the field, and we were practicing our spit. I says if you spit and it freezes before it hits the ground, it's too cold to play football, and it passed the test. We spit and it didn't freeze before it hit the ground, so we said, let's play the game.
My reaction to that is, I don't know about practicing spitting. You and Tim Irwin? I hope we got that on tape. Eight left in the first quarter. The Giants 3, Minnesota nothing.
Pat, who do you think would wear something like that that says moon boot on it? That has to be a kicker's deal.
I think it's a guy that practices spitting.
Moon boot. I've seen a lot of things on the sideline.
Sims lunges over the left, stopped by Fred Strickland. He might have gotten the first down. He did.
I think remember that third down play that Roger Craig was in there trying to get the first down, and Tim Irwin gave him a little push. Looked like Roger hurt his leg on that play because he's been trying to get out whatever's been in there ever since that play.
1st and 10 Giants at their own 28. Sims to Hampton. The blocks were there, including a good one by Callaway. Vincey Glenn made the stop.
Yeah, that was the thing that Dan Reeves really likes about Callaway. They're going to get a lead here to this side. Callaway, the outside receiver, is going to come in to block. Dolman took an inside, a good block there by Callaway. and then Rodney Hampton was able to get to 5 yards, but part of it was given to him by Dolman by taking that inside slant.
Giants in a hurry, 2nd and 5. Bunts the ball carrier, wrapped up by Dolman. And Randall.
I don't mean to be critical, but I think if I had the wind with me in a day like this, I wouldn't be handing the ball to Jared Bunch.
They did a couple of things right. They got in a hurry. They got the play underway in a hurry. But I think I'd put it in the air. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think so. If you're going to, if you have the wind, then you ought to use it. And if you're going to use it, you ought to try that seam pass again, because they did hit it once to Callaway, and I think it's still there.
And Sims throws it, as we said, better than anybody. Pass was hit by Carlos Jenkins. He had a shot at it, but the Vikings, I believe, jumped offside. John Randall.
I think it was one of those that Phil Sims knew he had a free one. But if you have a free one, that doesn't mean you have to throw it to the other guy. The Vikings do that a lot. The Vikings jump off sides a lot because they're always up there. They're ready to go. They're a big pass rushing team. They're going to pass rush on every down.
Offsides by the defense, number 56. 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
Called against Dolman. But they all say, we don't care how many times you get called offside. We don't care how many times you jump. We're still going to do it. We got to get after them.
Yeah, I think you have to be a pass rushing team if that's what you are, but I also think you have to think about jumping off sides. You just can't give teams first down.
Here's Sims. To Chris Callaway again. Stopped by Carl Lee.
That's the confidence of a Phil Sims, the confidence of a 15-year veteran. The play before, he threw this same thing, this slant. You see, and it was almost intercepted by Jenkins. He came right back and threw it again. One thing they're not going to do is let Chris Dolman beat him. There's always going to, Eric Moore is always going to have help. We saw that time it was Eric Moore and Howard Cross.
Here's Sims again. To Cross. McGriggs up to make the stop. McGriggs, an ex-Giant.
Howard Cross on the play before helped block. On that play, became a receiver. Again, the Giants have a minute and 38 seconds left with this win. They're trying to hurry up to keep the wind and get a score.
Very wise. Hampton bent backwards at the 40. But a gain nevertheless. Win time is running out in the first quarter.
Yeah, they use a lot of guys to pull. They pull their guards, they pull their tackles, and they also pull their H-back, Aaron Pierce, and he's become a pretty good blocker.
They'll measure. Sims had a chance while they measure to run over to the sideline and talk with Dan Reeves.
Again, I think that they ought to be passing the ball just to use that wind. I think they have a minute and 15 seconds. They ought to pass every down. But watch Pierce in motion here, number 84. You see him start to the left, stop. Now he's going to go back to the right. See, and he just times it up with that counter. Whap, right there he gets the lead block or the lead miss that let Rodney Hampton get through there. Like he did a lot. His movement was a lot better than his blocking was, to be honest.
He's in motion again. He looks good coming in motion. There's Sims. The seam intended for Cross. It's become such a part of the Giant attack that's what you call it, a seam. I'm sure they have another name for it.
Well, Phil Sims calls it a seam pass, and that's his favorite pass. And he says that, you know, when Bill Parcells was here and Ron Earhart, they used to throw it all the time, and then they kind of went away from it. He said when Dan Reeves came here this year, he said he hated the seam pass. And Sims kept throwing it, and then Reeves said, hey, this isn't bad. So now it's a big part of their offense.
That's Callaway. And this is Sims. still runs. That's how much time they have to take advantage of the wind. Sims did not get the first down.
I think that, you know, you can tell what a factor the wind is, because, you know, they're trying to hurry up. They didn't know whether to huddle or not huddle, take a timeout or not take a timeout. But I think one thing they ought to do, again, is throw the ball, and on third down they would have to do anyway.
3rd and 4. Sims gets it to Aaron Pierce, and they get a first down.
And they're taking a timeout. I think that's a smart move. If this were the second half, I don't think it would be a smart move to take a timeout. But Phil Sims, it did say timeout, and it didn't look like they stopped the clock.
They finally did with 9 seconds to go. They were only going to get one play anyway.
But I don't think they stopped the clock exactly when he called timeout. I think they lost 4 or 5 seconds.
I think you're right about that. Somebody told us yesterday it was going to be a fast game. If they leave the clock running, it will be.
You mean if they leave the clock running when the guys call timeout,
Yeah.
if they ignore them? In fact, that's what they're looking at right now. You can see that they did put the 4 seconds back on the clock, or 3 seconds back on.
Right. Phil Sims is 5 out of 7 for 49 yards. They'll run one more play with the wind. The Giants will, with the wind at their back.
You know, if it's again, I would attack the end zone, and you know, if it's an incomplete pass, they may get 2 out of it. If it's a complete pass inside, you know, they'll probably be the last run.
Sims rolls right, gets it out to Jackson, who stays in bounds. And let's see about the timeout if they call it. Clock's running, a quarter's over. Jackson did not get out of bounds. That's the end of the first quarter with the score. The Giants 3, the Vikings nothing. First quarter statistics. Rushing yards for the Giants 52, passing yards 52. The Vikings had the ball just under 5 minutes. The Giants the rest of the time.
And maybe the most important stat, Pat, is the Giants took the wind, but they only got 3 points when they had the wind. And to me, right now at the end of the first quarter, that's a Viking victory, even though they only have first downs and they're losing all the other stats.
Because again, they won the toss and took the win. They won the toss and kicked off. Lewis Tillman has replaced Rodney Hampton. Sims against the wind this time. Howard cross. Vincey Glenn had a chance at an interception. He's been good at that. That one, because it bounced off Cross's fingers, I think distracted him.
And that was Phil Sims's favorite pass into the area where he says is the wind is the worst. He said the wind, you're always throwing in to the wind when you're going in this direction. There's probably no one that knows this wind better than Phil Sims. And he said the closer you get to the end zone, the more windy it is. If you just go down, you'll see these flags as they change. Little wind, more wind. You see, the closer you get to the end zone, the windier it gets.
Dolman jumped. Sims has got a free play. Incomplete. Mark Jackson, the intended receiver. But the Vikings, Chris Dolman jumped offside.
And you see, and that's the second time. You know, Phil Sims, again, a 15-year veteran, a smart quarterback. You notice the thing, they jumped offsides both time on third down.
Defense, number 56. It's a 5-yard penalty. Repeat third down.
So they'll have another shot.
See, the thing is, you get back there and he's in the shotgun and you give him a little something to make a move. You know, it may be a little flinch. You hold a little longer count. You see Dolman right there. He was the guy that moved. But, you know, and they say that they'll take those offsides, but I don't know. I think you have to be aware of them on third down.
3rd and 2, Hampton is replaced. Tillman now as the running back. And that's their last timeout in the first half. He just didn't like what he saw. 3-0.
Sponsored by Mitsubishi.
In the NFC yesterday, the Packers beat the Lions 28-24. So Saturday, the winner of this game plays the 49ers, and Sunday the Packers will be at Texas Stadium against the Cowboys. In the AFC, the Chiefs over the Steelers in overtime. So the Chiefs will play the Oilers, and the winner of today's Bronco Raider game will play at Buffalo.
Yeah, talking about the Oilers, I was looking out there watching the pregame warm-up, and lo and behold, I saw Warren Moon here. Warren Moon's at the game.
Getting used to the cold weather, I guess. I don't know for what reason. They're home next week. Maybe business. Here's Sims. Outside and through the hands of Mark Jackson.
Tell you, in the last 3, Mark Jackson has killed him. Remember, against Phoenix, he had the fumble. He had the drop passes last week, and that was a this is a big third down play. Sims gets here. He reads it, a little play pass. He has Cratch pull. Cratch blocks Dolman. He gets the ball out there perfectly to Mark Jackson, and he just drops the darn thing.
This is Treadwell from 34 yards, and that's about his maximum this direction. Watch the ball flutter. Way left. Way left. The wind just took it that way, and so the Giants lead 3-0. Second quarter, Treadwell's field goal attempt, and watch it go left.
Yeah, this wind has to drive quarterbacks and kickers crazy. Watch it. I mean, he pointed it to the outside. They went all the way across and the other way. And watch this stuff floating up. It's coming. The wind is going across and up and then into you. So you got to, the wind is about doing 3 things to you as you're kicking it down.
Well, most kickers are crazy anyway.
They wear stuff that says moon boot on them.
Scotty Graham. Now the Vikings have the wind in the second quarter. Eric Howard made the stop.
And Mark Jackson has really been having a tough time these last 3 weeks. You know, he dropped that third down pass. Even at the end of the quarter there, he could have gotten out of the bounds and given the Giants one more play with the win. He stayed in bounds. So this hasn't been a good 3-week period for Mark Jackson.
Anthony Carter comes to the left. Chris Carter to the right. Second down, McMahon to throw it. Wide open is Steve Jordan. Up close to the 40, about the 39, stopped by Michael Brooks.
There's an amazing guy, Pat. Steve Jordan, 12-year veteran, played in the Ivy League out of Brown University, had a bad knee, and they thought maybe they'd do surgery, he'd be out for the year. But Denny Green said he just worked his knee back into shape. He would work 8 to 10 hours a day in the training room on his knee.
He's got to work some more. He just limped off. Tice and Derek Tennell are the backups. Tice was lined up tight to the left. This is Scotty Graham, however. Good yards. Tough yards, but good yards.
Well, they caught Corey Miller in the inside. Corey Miller, again, is playing the inside, thinking Scotty Graham is going to be an inside runner. You see him here. He should have stayed outside. Scotty Graham takes it and then bounces it out. Corey Miller should have stayed on the outside. You see him right there. He starts to take the inside, gets tripped up a little. Scotty Graham read that and was able to bounce it to the outside.
Second down. They need 6. McMahon took a good look at the defense. Threw that visor, didn't like it, called a timeout. So the Vikings have 2 left. The Giants have none. Giants lead, however, 3-0.
You know, every quarterback has what they call a pre-snap read. And that's what Jim McMahon is doing now. He's reading the defense before the ball snapped. Now, he saw something he didn't like. Here's what he saw. He sees a linebacker shift here, a linebacker shift here, and these two guys move up. You see that? Then you see the other linebacker move, and the safeties move up. He expected a blitz. He didn't have his protection, so he called a timeout.
They need 6 for a first. McMahon scrambles away from the rush. Incomplete. Chris Carter was the intended receiver.
And the guy who was going after him was Lawrence Taylor,
Right.
and the guy that Jim McMahon juked was Lawrence Taylor. You know that Jim McMahon can't do it. I mean, you know, he can't throw, he can't run, he can't do this. But watch Lawrence Taylor here, coming from the top of the screen. He goes inside of Irvin. Just as he gets inside, McMahon sees it. He's smart enough to know that and get outside. That was a good move, though, that Taylor made on Tim Irwin.
3rd and 6. Taylor's on the right this time. Here he comes. They double him this time. And McMahon. Pass is caught by Anthony Carter, but he's out of bounds. So the Vikings will have to punt with the wind.
And this is a tough thing to do, you know, to throw that corner pattern against that cover 2 that the Giants use. They have that corner coming up and the safety coming over. Even though it's a zone, when you throw that pattern to the outside, it's always going to be into a form of double coverage.
Newsom back to punt. Meggett back deep for the Giants at the 15. Better kick, much better by Newsom. Meggett's going to let it go and go into the end zone and out. So the Giants will take over at their own 20, leading by the score of 3-0. Next Saturday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, the 49ers host the winner of this game. It'll either be the Giants or the Vikings. On Sunday at 12:30, the Dallas Cowboys host the Packers in the other divisional playoff. Rodney Hampton on first down. Stopped by Ed McDaniel.
They're talking about next week where the winner of this game playing the 49ers, and of course Green Bay Packers playing at Dallas. That was sure an effort last week here by the Dallas Cowboys and Emmitt Smith. That was one of the most courageous efforts by a player that I've ever seen in Emmitt Smith.
I agree with you. And we've seen a lot.
And today in the pregame, I saw Troy Aikman wearing a suit.
No, I don't think it was a suit.
He was wearing a tie or something. I don't know where he just came from. What was he wearing? He was wearing a coat and that tie and all that stuff.
Hair was combed. Hampton gets the carry. It'll bring up a 3rd down situation for the Giants. 3rd and about 5. Giant plays so far 21 with the wind. 104 yards, 5 against the wind, and 5 yards. And they need 5 more. Sims will try. And he just got 5 and a little bit more to Howard Cross. First down Giants. Jack Del Rio made the stop.
I think the thing that Phil Sims knows is he knows you can still throw into the wind, and the type of pass you throw is this. You see, just that little thing, Cross goes up, he does a little hook, he gets a first down. You keep the ball low, you keep the spiral tight, and you keep the passes short, and you keep them inside. And you do all those things because you've been playing here for 15 years.
You hear so much about arm strength, but that is about the maximum you can throw with effectiveness. That's Hampton over the right side. Stopped by John Randall. Tuaolo with an assist.
And, you know, the defenses can play the wind, too. That if the offense is going into the wind, then they can shorten down the field, and they can shrink the field from the sides, too, because they know that you can't get outside, you can't throw outside, and you can't throw deep. So you can bring your corners in. They can play the run more to the inside, and you can bring your safeties up, and you can shrink the whole field down on the offense.
Megan split wide to the right this time. The handoff is to Hampton, who's hit just as he gets to the line of scrimmage by John Randall.
See, that's what the Vikings have, is they're rushing the passer, and in rushing the passer, you watch Randall there, sometimes you'll just run right into a run. You see, they start the penetration there. Randall is going on a pass rush. He's thinking pass rush, but again, he gets a penetration, and whap, there's a runner. Watch number 93. He just starts to get penetration and runs right into Hampton. One thing they do is that defense of the Minnesota Vikings does penetrate.
3rd and 9. Sims back to throw it. Going to be a screen pass. And it's going to be effective, but does not get the first down. Short of the 40, they needed about the 41 for the first. Ed McDaniel made the stop. The Giants will have to punt. Mike Horan, the left-footed Giant kicker, has had his problems in recent weeks.
Well, I think as the wind started, Horan's problem started. And again, you know, he's a directional kicker. Dan Reeves brought him in here to directional kick. That means to kick the ball outside the numbers to the right or the left. Don't kick the ball down the middle of the field.
Carter and Parker are back deep for Minnesota. This is a pretty good kick. Overhead of Carter. He does make the catch and gets it back outside the 25 to about the 28, where the Vikings will take over. 40-yard punt.
You know, that was a heck of a punt. You know, we talk about directional punting. Watch, he's going to punt to his left. He turns to his left, and he punts there. Now, that is a heck of a spiral that can just cut right through that wind. I mean, he put something on that didn't make that ball flop. That's about as good a spiral as you can punt into this wind, and the direction was perfect also.
Caught Anthony Carter by surprise. He had to retreat and catch the ball like he would have passed over his shoulder.
He said there's no way a guy can punt it this far.
McMahon to Jordan, incomplete. Jackson up to make the stop. Again, Lawrence Taylor put some heat on McMahon. You know, Jim McMahon, who's 3 out of 7, down on the field, I was talking to him before the game. I said, you don't mind this cold weather, this windy weather, those years in Chicago? He said, who told you that? I hate cold weather. I don't like to play in cold weather. That's a myth.
Jim McMahon's a rebel, and he's going to hate whatever you say you don't hate. Whatever you said, he was going to say, I do hate it. He said he doesn't, he does. You say he does, he doesn't.
Here's McMahon back to throw. Steps up in the pocket, gets it out to Scotty Graham. Scotty Graham gets a Viking first down out to a 44-yard line. Myron Guyton finally made the stop. But Minnesota gets the first.
You know, one thing about Jim McMahon, when he goes back, he not only sees everything, but he feels everything. Watch Keith Hamilton right there, number 75. He's going to jump up and leave his feet. Now, the minute that he jumped up, he took a lane that McMahon was looking at. He took that lane away from him, and then McMahon just went out to the left and found another lane.
Vikings this time go with those 4 wide receivers to spread them out. McMahon goes wide. But the Giants get there in a hurry. That's Jake Reed that made the catch. Mark Collins was the first tackler.
The Vikings feel that if you play 1 tight end, 2 wide receivers against this Giant defense, that you're playing right into their hand. You either have to play 2 or 3 tight ends or 3 or 4 wide receivers, but don't play a regular offense against this Giant defense because you're playing right into their hands.
2nd and 7. Vikings again, I don't want to be redundant, but operating with the wind. Reverse to Carter, juggled it. cuts back across midfield to about the Giant 49, 48 maybe.
You know, that's the first time that one of the Carters has gotten the ball, and I think if the Minnesota Vikings are going to do anything, they have to get the ball to one of the Carters when they have the wind. Now, they can throw it to him here. They're trying it on a reverse. And again, Anthony Carter is a great open field runner. That's why he was back there as a punt returner, too. But neither Carter has caught a pass yet.
3rd and 2. Scotty Graham is the runner. Down to 1 second on the game clock. McMahon ships one tackler. Throws intended for Jordan in a hurry. It's incomplete, and the Giants force a Viking punt.
And this Giant crowd knows their defense. Did you hear him? It starts to get 3rd down. The crowd starts, and you can feel them getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when that ball snapped, it's tough for the quarterback to hear. And then, of course, when they stop him, they just go crazy.
Harry Newsom's punting. The wind tells you the story about that. Megan standing back inside the 10. Newsom a high kick this time. Megan signals fair catch and makes it at the 19. So the Giants take over at their own, just inside their own 20, at about the 20 make it. 5:50 left to play in the first half. And the Giants leading the Vikings by the score of 3-0.
Jim McMahon is thinking right there that, you know, that they have the wind, and I'm sure they're thinking that when you have the wind, even though they know they have to run to beat the Giants, they know they can't cause any turnovers, but again, you want to use that wind, and to use it, I think somewhere in this half you better start getting the ball to the Carters.
At the 20, the Giants will take over. Jackson in motion. Pitches back to Hampton. To the line of scrimmage. Maybe the last surge got him a yard.
You know, one thing, the Giants are trying to take advantage of Chris Dolman, and what he's doing is he's trying to take an inside. You see him here. Now, he's trying to take an inside here on Eric Moore, so they're just bringing the ball right outside of him. See, he's coming in here. See him take the inside. He's running himself. Wants to take that inside, then they're trying to get that pitch out there and get outside of him.
2nd and 9. The other defensive players have been able to stop that so far. Here's Hampton straight ahead. They tried. Didn't work. Crowd perhaps a little impatient with the Giant conservative approach. A few boos here and there. But against the wind, you just can't operate.
And one thing about the Minnesota Vikings is, even though they're pass rushers and they're all going to rush your passer, they do pursue and they do gang tackle. That's a Tony Dungy type of defense, that any play that they run, he wants all white jerseys going to the ball.
Speaking of Tony Dungy, he was telling us last night he thought it was going to be a very fast game. And so far, it really has been. Sims gets it out to Megan. Hit at the 25 by Anthony Parker.
The other thing the Viking defense does besides pursue and gang tackle is that they tackle well. They're a good tackling defense now.
A good defensive series by Minnesota. And Horan will have to punt again, this time from back at his own 10. Again, Anthony Carter and Anthony Parker back deep for the Vikings, standing at the 40. If Horan can kick another one like he did last time, everybody will be happy. This is a flopper. Parker signals fair catch, and the Vikings take over closer to midfield.
Did you see the interesting thing, Pat, there is that the Vikings know that Horan is a directional punter, so they put 2 return men back there and they lined them up on the numbers. So if he punted to the left, Carter was there, and he punted to the right, he punted right to the guy.
So the Vikings take over. 1st and 10, 3:48. And that's how much time they have in this half with the wind at their back. So McMahon's got to go to work. He gives it to Scotty Graham. is the first Giant there. Nothing doing.
Yeah, Scotty Graham didn't run on that play. I don't know what, but you can't. If you're going to run against these Giants, you better take the ball and wham it in there. I mean, he was tiptoeing there like he was looking for something to happen. I mean, watch him. If you're going to run the ball, take it and run it. But he gets the ball here, and you start doing that against the Giants, all they're going to do is have about 6, 7 guys come and jump on you. I mean, you're either going to run it, take it up in there and run the darn thing, or don't run it. But you can't do that.
That run was like he was back in the pharmacy where he was 3 months ago.
And running like that will send you back to the pharmacy.
2nd and 11. McMahon has some protection. Gets it to Anthony Carter. And it's a Viking first down in Giant territory at their 41.
That's the first time that one of the Carters has caught the ball. And again, they're playing off. They're giving him a little cushion there. Now here, Mark Collins, we know, has that knee injury. He's playing a little softer today. He gave Anthony Carter a lot of cushion out there. In fact, Greg Jackson had to make the tackle for Mark Collins. I'm surprised that the Vikings haven't tried more against Collins to test him out.
4 wide receivers. McMahon gives to Graham. Graham gets very little. Mike Fox and Keith Hamilton converge to make the snap.
Yeah, we were talking to Jim McMahon last night about, that over the years, Anthony Carter has been a great wide receiver in this league, but Chris Carter has really come on and caught more passes and been the go-to guy. And Jim McMahon says the go-to guy to me is the first guy that gets open.
Yeah. Forget about all those reads. I'll find a guy that's open, and he's my man. 2 minutes left in the first half. Back at Giant Stadium, Pat Summerall with John Madden. 2 minutes left in the first half. The Giants got the wind by kicking off when they won the toss. Took the win. Got a field goal, and that's the score. 3-0. Viking 2nd down and 9 at the Giant 40. They fake the reverse. McMahon going deep for Chris Carter. Touchdown, Viking.
Yeah, we were just saying that they hadn't thrown to the Carters. We were just saying that they really haven't tried Mark Collins. Mark Collins injured his knee in practice, didn't know if he would play. He was kind of doubtful during the week. Then he became questionable, then probable. He started today. They didn't try him, but on that play there, they tried Mark Collins.
They got him isolated on Chris Carter. McMahon came out of the pocket and threw a strike. From 40 yards out, the Vikings take the lead, 6-3. Juan Rivez will try to make it 7-3. And he does. 1:53 left to play in the first half. If you're the Giants now, John, and you get the kickoff, what kind of an approach do you take? Would you be conservative, or would you go for something?
I think you have to be conservative if you don't have the win. But we see here's how the Vikings started. They bring a motion, and then they're going to fake a reverse, and then McMahon is going to get out here. Carter is going to go deep right there against Mark Collins. But you see, here comes the motion. That gets Collins off. Then they fake the reverse to the motion guy. McMahon gets to the outside, one-on-one on Mark Collins, and no help to the inside, no help anyplace else. And that was a perfect throw by Jim McMahon.
It really
Fake
was.
the reverse, bootleg outside, look at your guy going deep, and a perfect throw.
Chris Carter has always had great ability to jump, even back in the days when he was with the Eagles. In fact, they thought that's all he could do.
And that was a little late. He had to wait there a little while, and while he was waiting, he positioned his body between Mark Collins and the ball.
He was almost a Giant, Chris Carter.
Yeah, he was cut by the Philadelphia Eagles. Bill Parcells talked to him, tried to make a trade for him. Thought that they could pick him up on waivers. He said he could be here in 2 hours, and then the Vikings claimed him.
Reve's kickoff is short. Callaway retreats to about the 11, and he is hit down hard by the Viking coverage. inside the 20. Lamar McGriggs down to make the stop with Brent Novoselsky.
Yeah, I think the Giants, and you don't like to be conservative, and you know that you know that's not the way to end a half, but I think that this game is going to be the game that we've been talking about. It's going to be with the wind and against the wind, and you don't want to do anything stupid. You don't want to do anything stupid into the wind anyway.
And they have no timeouts left either. He's going to throw it, but it's going to be a screen pass. Rodney Hampton gets up to about the 25, 26 maybe. Stopped by Carl Lee. Tried to strip the ball loose, but didn't.
I think the fans want something to happen. I don't know if they realize, but I'm sure they do. These are very smart fans. I don't know if they realize the Giants that don't have any timeouts left.
And are going against that wind.
Yeah, that's right. And they're huddling up. They probably, the ones that know they don't have any timeouts left, are saying, what the heck you huddling up for? And the ones that don't know they don't have any timeouts left are saying, why don't you take a timeout?
It's because those fans are all huddled up. They don't realize those things. There's a running play to Hampton. Good tackle by Vincey Glenn.
That's one thing that's really impressed me in this first half about this Viking defense. We knew they were a good defense, a good pass rushing defense, but they've been tackling awfully crisply.
Sims stopped the clock on first down. Again, no timeouts left. And just look at the offense with the wind and against the wind.
Yeah, but the biggest thing, I think, is we see that the Giants did a lot more with the wind, but they only got 3 points. I think when they had to win, I don't think they were aggressive at the end of the first quarter. Conversely, we saw that the Vikings were aggressive. They went the bootleg and the deep pass to Chris Carter against Mark Holland.
Remember that haunted them 2 or 3 weeks ago against Phoenix when they got down close and only got field goals. And Phoenix came back in the second half. Here's Sims. Doesn't see the men coming from behind. That's a pass, not a fumble. Roy Barker around the corner. Stayed in pursuit.
Yeah, we know that the Minnesota Viking, you know about Chris Dolman, you know about Randall and Henry Thomas, but this Roy Barker is starting to come now, and they think that, you know, that they lost Al Noga a year ago, and Barker had a start and had a slow start, then a pretty good middle, but he's coming up pretty strong here at the end.
3rd and 10. Now the Vikings might think about calling a timeout. Here's Sims rolling left, chased by Dolman, throwing back right to Megan. He tried to throw it, and nothing is there.
Yeah, that was Dan Reeves' trick. He was going to throw to Chris Callaway. Chris Callaway was about 30 yards deep here. McGriggs was deep with him. You're going to see the play. We'll just let it go and see when Meggett gets out here. We see Callaway is down here in the bottom. See when he throws back. Now here's Callaway right here. McGriggs sees him though and comes over. You see, if he could have thrown it right now, he had Callaway. But he waits and he waits and he waits. There comes McGriggs, and by now Meggett decided he better not throw it.
And this is a Viking timeout. And that means they have 1 left. Of course, the clock will stop when they change possession. But Horan will have to punt against the wind coming up on the NFL Today halftime report. Greg and Terry will be joined by Washington Redskin Charles Mann for first half analysis, plus Leslie. And Jim Gray will have live locker room reports. That's all coming up at the half.
You know, in that last play, Pat, I don't think that Meggett could have thrown that ball anyway, because Phil Sims threw a forward pass, and you can't have 2 forward passes.
Horan's punt is partially blocked. Took a little bit of a giant bounce. The Vikings run away from it. And they'll take over at the Giant 35 with a timeout left. I think it might have hit Greg Jackson in the rear.
I think you're going to find that out. I think you're going to find that it did hit his own guy. Watch, Jackson is number 47. He's being pushed back, and Horan punted the ball right into Jackson. Now, Jackson came too far back or was pushed too far back, and Horan went too far forward. And watch that, Jackson is pushed right back into Horan, and Jackson is the guy that blocked the punt.
Whatever. It's first down Vikings at the Giant 36. And McMahon is going to throw. He does. Scotty Graham, who might wish he didn't catch it. He's hit by Michael Brooks. And McMahon will call a timeout with 8 seconds left. That's all the timeouts for the Vikings. They lead 7-3 in the second quarter. 8 seconds left to play in the first half. Minnesota 7. That's to our right behind Fuad Rivez, who will try a 52-yard field goal. The doors are shut behind the left goal post. You hear a lot about they open them and close them to benefit the Giants, but this doesn't look like a benefit to the Giants. Rivez with Newsome holding from 52 yards. Plenty long enough. And right down the middle. Fuad Rivez. 2 seconds left.
I'll say this about the Minnesota Vikings, Pat. It's just the first half, but the Minnesota Vikings played this first half much more aggressively than the Giants did. I don't think the Giants played it aggressively when they had to win. The Vikings did. They went for some big plays. They got a punt block. They did everything that you have to do in the first half in this type of game.
They certainly took advantage after the win. Under 45 yards. Rivez was 24 for 24. That's only his third all year long outside 45.
Yeah, he'd like to bring that Meadowlands wind with him. He'd like to be able to pack that and just travel it around this NFL as he goes.
It would prolong his career.
You can talk about indoors and indoor kickers and outdoor kickers. I'll tell you, it's a big difference. You know, all these kickers always say, well, yeah, Morton Anderson always kicks indoors, and they don't have to experience some of these things.
Well, that means that's a pretty good indication. All that talk is that you got a lot of time to talk. Dennis Green is a remarkable guy, the job he's done. Excuse me. Rivez bounces this one. Megan runs it down and runs out of bounds, and that'll end the first half. That's the end of the first half with the score. The Vikings 10, the Giants 3.
Today halftime report is sponsored by new loose fit Dockers. Nobody does pants like Dockers.
Welcome, everyone, back to our studios here in New York, along with Terry Bradshaw and Charles Mann of the Washington Redskins. I'm Greg Gumbel. Cold day at Giant Stadium, but the Minnesota Vikings have found their way to 10 points and a 10-3 halftime lead. Take a look at the highlights from East Rutherford, New Jersey, where the cold temperatures certainly have you shivering on the sidelines, but Phil Simms going up top to Chris Callaway. This an 18-yard pickup, and it set up David Treadwell's 26-yard field goal. Now in the second quarter, Phil Simms to Mark Jackson for first down. You got to hold on to those. Treadwell missed a field goal on the very next play. But this is the touchdown. McMahon rolling to his right from 40 yards out finds Chris Carter. Makes the catch over Mark Collins. An extra field goal made it a 10-3 game. What happened on that last
You know, Tom Moore told us before the game that one of the keys today would be motion by his team. If he could get his receivers in motion, that would affect Jackson and Guyton, the safety, strong and free safety. Now, here's a tight end. Here's play action. There's motion. Now, stop it right there. Look what happens to Guyton, the free safety. He's coming over. Jackson hasn't even moved. He's supposed to be in the middle, but because of motion and play action, he freezes. McMahon out of the pocket. Holds the linebackers outside. Now here comes Jackson, and when Jackson made this move up, there's Carter going to the post. Nobody there. Touchdown. The last time Jim McMahon threw a touchdown pass to the Giants was when he was with the Bears. Same thing, outside the pocket post.
All right, we talked in the pregame about Chris Dolman, how important it would be for the Giants to cut down his effectiveness. How have they done?
Well, I tell you what, they've really taken him out of his game. They've put the tight end over him, Cross, and has really helped Eric Moore out. They've run some play action and whatnot and done some things to really hold him out. But the rest of the defensive line are doing a really good job, and they're really holding him out.
All right, Rodney Hampton has rushed for 50-plus yards. That is according to the Giants' game plan.
Right.
But what else do they have to do in the second half?
They have to make some big plays. They have to throw the ball down the field, and they have not done that effectively. They've dropped some balls and whatnot. Phil Simms is doing what he has to do to win the football game, but they have to get the ball deep.
They have to play from behind, which is a big problem.
Yeah, because that's what the Vikings like. They want you to know, they want to know that you have to throw the football, and you do that when you're behind. Big passes are the key in this game. Look for Aubrey McMillan, the right corner for the Vikings. He loves to come up and play on those 10-yard passes. Simms will come out. He told me this guy and pump it. And he said this guy will bite and they will go deep. And I think if they're going to win the game, they got to get on McMillan and go deep.
All right, Terry, Charles, 10-3 at halftime in favor of Minnesota. Here's the latest on the Joe Bugel watch. We spoke with the Phoenix head coach within the past hour. He told us that he and owner Bill Bidwell are scheduled to leave together for the East-West College All-Star game in Palo Alto on Tuesday. Bugel added, quote, I figure I'll hear something tomorrow, but I'm still waiting for the phone call to actually schedule a meeting with him, end quote. Helping Bugel's cause is the fact that 30 of his players are free agents, and many are saying they will not stay if he goes. A reminder, after the game, Terry, Charles, and I will be with you for the post-game show. We will have complete post-game interviews, all the latest playoff news, and we will talk live with the toast of Titletown, Packers head coach Mike Holmgren. That's the NFL Today post-game show coming up right after the game. And following our football coverage, we'll send you out to West Lafayette, Indiana, where unbeaten Purdue, ranked number 10 in this young college hoop season, hosts Seton Hall. It's a chance to enjoy the special skills of Glenn Robinson of the Purdue Boilermakers. Next up, we'll check in for halftime locker room reports as we send you back to Pat and John at the Meadowlands when the NFL on CBS continues after this word from your local station.
NFC wild card game halftime. The Minnesota Vikings 10, the Giants 3 for an update report. Let's send you now to Leslie Visser.
Pat, as the Vikings came off the field, they were very vocal. Some of them were yelling, remember Detroit. They thought they had it won yesterday. Well, defensive coach Don Teerling said he thinks the defense finally found their rhythm. He doesn't expect any more offsides from what he called unnecessary gambling. There are no injuries, only Roger Craig was limping a little bit. He says he'll be fine and he'll be back. Dennis Green told me they hadn't made up their mind yet whether they would take the win in the third or the fourth quarter, but they're leaning toward the fourth quarter. For What's Up with the Giants, let's go to Jim Gray.
All right, Leslie, just the opposite coming in here. The team was basically pretty down. Spoke with wide receiver Mark Jackson. He said that we are letting the wind affect our thinking much too much. We got to get back to our game plan and be aggressive with the wind and also try and throw some short passes when we are against the wind. As for the defense, they're very pleased, the defensive coaches. They say they've only given up that one big play. They plan no major adjustments. Pat?
All right, Jim, thank you very much. I'm here with John Madden, of course. John, your appraisal of the first half. What do you think?
Well, I think that the Minnesota Vikings did a good job with the wind. I think they were very aggressive when they had it. I didn't think the Giants did a good job. I didn't think they were aggressive when they had it the first time they got down here. Even there at the end of the half, Pat, I thought that when they were going into the wind, the Giants had no timeouts. I thought they should have just ran the clock out, but they stopped the clock, threw the ball down, and then that mean they had a punt. Then they got the block punt, and then the Vikings got another field goal.
Let me put you back in a situation where you're back coaching again. If you're the coach, now you come out, the wind being the factor that it is. What decision do you make about the ball or the wind?
Yeah, if I were the Vikings, I would make the Giants go into the wind because I feel a little like Jim Gray was just talking to Mark Jackson, said that I think this wind is psyching out the Giants more than it's psyching out the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, we'll be interested in what happens and what develops in the second half, which will come up in just a moment.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League Conference Wildcard Game is sponsored by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. Delta Airlines, you'll love the way we fly. The U.S. Army, be all you can be. And by Dean Witter, measuring success one investor at a time.
As always, Giants Stadium, packed house. Their Giants trail by the score of 10-3 to the Vikings. And very interesting comment John Madden just made. Jim McMahon doesn't look like he should even be playing He can't throw, he can't run, he's all beat up. His arm is not what it was, but he can do one thing, John.
He can beat you.
That's right.
You know, and that's what Jim McMahon's all about. I mean, he does everything wrong. Like, you can't wear a visor and play quarterback because you can't even see through that thing. And you shouldn't have all that stuff, all those undershirts on and long sleeves and stuff. You can't play quarterback and wear gloves because you can't throw the ball. And he does all those things. And, you know, Jim McMahon can't do it, but he beats you.
If you dropped him in the water, he'd go right straight to the bottom.
That's right.
But if he could get loose, his team would come out on top.
Yeah, he'd end up on the beach somehow. Yeah. He'd go straight to the bottom and end up on the beach because he's a great competitor. I mean, you know, you can't take that away. I mean, the guy, you know, has been. I mean, he's been in Super Bowls. He's won Super Bowls. He knows how to lead a team. The players like him, and he has all those things that maybe the intangibles overcome some of the other things that he lacks.
I guess a pretty good clue to what kind of guy he is, McMahon, is he's a good golfer, but he plays barefooted.
Yeah, I was in a golf tournament once with him, par 5, dog leg right on the opening on the first hole. He just hit it right over the dog leg. First shot out of the thing. It was just like John Daly.
Daniel Isso's kickoff with the wind is handled by Ismail, and a flag on the play as Ismail brings it back to about the 27-yard line. Flag on the play. And you know what this is.
Well, of course, we also know what the Vikings decided to do.
Yep.
They decided that they want the win in the fourth quarter. They're going to give the Giants the win in this third quarter. And for the Giants, this is a good start because they're going to get the win and this penalty.
Return, holding by the receiving team, number 85. 10-yard penalty, first down.
First down, Vikings, and that penalty backs them up inside the 15.
What's always impressed me, Pat, about Giants fans is they know football. I mean, they know that was a big thing, that the Vikings are going into the win, and they just got a 10-yard penalty.
Here's Scotty Graham. He is met by a host of Giants. Keith Hamilton was the first guy there. Corey Miller and crew knocked him out of bounds. Let's look at halftime statistics again. We just got a peek at these. Time of possession, the Giants own that 18-11 plus in both situations, but that's pretty regulation for the Giants. They do keep the ball a lot. They had 10 first downs to 5 for Minnesota, but Minnesota leads at 10-3, second and 11.
See, now the Vikings are going back to that thing, Pat. Spread them out. See how they have the 4 wide receivers spread this Giant defense out.
McMahon. Pass is almost picked off by Collins. It was behind the intended receiver, well behind. McMahon was hit. It was intended for Ismail.
Watch number 93, Mike Fox. You see, he comes off his block, and he hits McMahon, and he hits him right into Keith Hamilton. They made a sandwich out of McMahon.
And he's still down.
And the first guy there was Mike Fox. Watch number 93 there. See, he comes off his block. McMahon doesn't see him coming. He hits him right there and then hits him right into Keith Hamilton. You know, Jim McMahon tried to get up there, Pat, for a minute, and then they had to sit him back down.
And now he's lying down.
You remember when he was here with the Philadelphia Eagles and he got injured here in this stadium, and I think he had a rib.
There's Sean Salisbury. That's the first time today he was knocked down, had one batted ball. Salisbury was number 12, loosening up for the Vikings over on the sideline. That's not much loosening up. That's taking snaps just as if you're going to run plays.
You know, again, you're going to see number 93, Mike Fox, good hit, good legal hit, and he hits him right into him, and then Keith Hamilton was coming from the other side.
Sort of bent his head and his neck back when he hit Hamilton. Now McMahon, that looks better, is up.
Here's Mike Fox. He's going to be the first guy there. He's Keith Hamilton. He'll be the second guy here. Randall McDaniel tries to cut Fox. And you'll see what happens when he fires out to cut him. And he misses him right there. And now Fox has the free shot. And watch Hamilton come in and give a forearm right there to Jim McMahon's head. That was where he got it, the forearm of Keith Hamilton.
That's Salisbury. Gives it out to Chris Carter. Carter fumbles. The ball goes out of bounds. He doesn't get the first down, but he picks up the crucial yards. He gives Newsom a little bit of room. He's punting against the wind. The word on Jim McMahon is that he has a mild concussion. We'll just wait and see about his return.
And it wasn't the hit of Mike Fox on him. It was the forearm of Keith Hamilton that got the mild concussion.
The Giants, as the Vikings did in the first half, have 2 men back now to return the punt. Megan and Callaway. Here's Newsom. This is a pretty good kick. Chases Megan back to his own 32. And Megan steps out of bounds at the 37. Greg Minuski.
You know, this is, to me, Pat, what it's all about now for the Giants. I think that this could be their whole season. I think this is the second time they have the wind. In a game like this, you're going to have the wind for 2 quarters. They had it in the first. They're going to have it here in the third. We talked about the first. They weren't aggressive. And if they're going to win this game, if they're going to go on, if they're going to play the 49ers next week, I think in this quarter, they have to be aggressive offensively.
Hampton and Bunch are the 2 setbacks. And Sims is going right to work. And has Callaway dropped it? Incomplete, it's called. Incomplete. Flag on the play. I don't know what this is about. He may have just dropped it accidentally.
I think that's
no flag on the play.
No
I think
flag.
that's what he was saying, Pat, that if it did come out of there, it didn't mean to, and he's back there now trying to put it back in. We talked about the seam pattern. Here it is. You just run right up the seam of the zone. Perfect pass by Phil Sims, and that one there was just a good hit. I mean, that one there was just hit. I mean, the ball just got knocked out of there.
McMillan knocked it loose. 2nd and 10. And have to throw it again. Dolman with pressure on Sims to get the screen pass out, which is chased down from behind by Tualo. McMahon up throwing. He had as we told you, a slight concussion. It'll be 3rd and 7 coming up, but McMahon is back up throwing. Salisbury, who replaced McMahon, does have a better arm, but his W&L win and loss record is not as good.
Yeah, and I think in this game, in a playoff game, in this situation, Denny Green wants Jim McMahon in there, and there's no one that wants Jim McMahon in there more than Jim McMahon.
3rd and 7. Sims back to throw it. Dumps it off to Megan. And Megan gets a Giant first down. There was some question before the game as to whether or not Meggett would be effective and whether or not he could play, but he looks okay here.
Heck of a play here by Meggett, because I've always been one that says if you have 3rd down that you want to throw the ball for the first down. Don't throw it short and rely on the run. But I guess if you have a guy like Meggett, you could see Sims was looking deep, but a guy that can make these kind of moves, maybe you can throw it short to him on 3rd down.
1st and 10. Hampton hits the carry. Hampton is off to the races. Hampton still on his feet. Rodney Hampton, touchdown Giants. 51-yard sprint by Rodney Hampton. couple of Vikings had shots at Hampton, but they couldn't get him down. He's over 100 yards today. 51 of them came on that touchdown run. Treadwell is trying to tie it up, does. 10-10.
The Giants had to be aggressive, Pat. This is aggressive running.
10-10 tie. 10-10 tie. Rodney Hampton from 51 yards away scored the tying touchdown. Daluiso's kickoff sails wide right to Ismail again. He is chased, and he's not going anywhere. Knocked out of bounds at the 6.
They brought their aggression out. Watch the touchdown play. Here's Howard Cross, Doug Riesenberg. They get the thing started. Combination block. They block too. Now watch this. They block the end. Then Howard Cross comes up, gets a linebacker there. That's the start of the play right there. See that down there in the bottom? That gets him to the outside. But watch this straight arm that he does on Carlos Jenkins, number 51, right there. Rodney Hampton made that last 20 yards on his own.
And that's the longest touchdown run in Giant postseason history. Jim McMahon back at quarterback for the Vikings. A 10-10 tie. 1st and 10 at the 7. Jordan in motion. McMahon was going to run it himself, and he gets to about the 12.
Now you wonder if he still doesn't have that concussion when his first play is a quarterback sneak. But again, that's Jim McMahon. And he's going to find a soft spot there. He just looks. Maybe he didn't see something that, or someone to hand it to, and decided, what the heck, I'm going to run to the left.
He came over for a long look at the bench like he couldn't see the signal.
Yeah, he has a hard time with that shield on, and he doesn't have good eyesight anyway. And the farther they are from the bench, the more difficult time he has getting the signal.
Outside of that, he's fine. Here's Scotty Graham. Flag on the play, and this is going to erase a key gain for Minnesota. Meyer and Guyton made the stop, but a penalty is called. Holding against Minnesota. That's a big penalty.
That's a second big penalty against Minnesota. Remember the opening kickoff. Kickoff return.
By the offense, number 64. Half the distance to the goal, repeat second down.
64, of course, is their all-pro guard, Randall McDaniel.
64 we're going to see right there is Randall McDaniel. And he's going to pull to the right. And right there, he made the block. In fact, it became a tackle.
Yep. A takedown.
And that's exactly what it was. If he would have just stayed with the block, I think the defensive guy was going to take himself out of the play anyway.
2nd and 11. That is a big penalty. Costly. McMahon has Graham behind him. They'll come back with the same play. Not the same result. Carlton Bailey up to make the stop.
Carlton Bailey played that one perfectly. Now we know that they're going to come here. Now he has to run. You want to stay inside it, stay inside it, stay inside it, and then make your hit. You see, you want to stay inside that runner. Don't let him have the cutback. See how he stays inside, and now right now he can make his move.
And that's a good move by Bailey. 3rd and 12. Graham lost the yard. Don't be foolish here. Here's McMahon. And Minnesota will have to punt out of the end zone.
I think you're exactly right. I think when you're going into the wind, don't do anything stupid. When you're going with the wind, be aggressive.
Dennis Green looking on.
Yeah, he's probably looking on and thinking that maybe he shouldn't have given the Giants the wind in this 3rd quarter because he did have the momentum at the end of the half.
He did think about it. Newsom under the goalpost. Got to be careful not to step out of the end zone. Off the side of his foot. Bounces out of bounds. The Giants will take over at the 22.
And again, I think this is where the Giants really have to go after him. I think they have to come out again and be aggressive, go right after him. That's what these fans are telling him too.
Well, Dan Reeves has said sometimes the players don't understand what he is saying. This is a time to understand one of those words about going for the jugular vein. That was Mark Collins. They were just taking off the sideline. And Dan Reeves, now is the time to go for the jugular. Pierce in motion. That's Hampton again. Wrapped up by Henry Thomas. A yard, perhaps.
You know, Hampton is one of those guys that I think is a better second half player than a first half player. And he says what he has to do is you have to get in the groove to run. And we talked about Mark Collins being hurt. You can see that they're working on him now.
Yep.
He got hurt Wednesday in practice. He was going up, a ball was thrown to Mark Jackson, and he was going up for it, and he came down and twisted his knee, and he was doubtful that he would be able to play for a while.
Here's the draw play to Tillman. Tillman is cut down by Audrey McMillan, the cornerback. And Strickland, the linebacker, as they converge quickly.
And the Giants just don't like to throw on second down, but to me that's part of being aggressive. And maybe you don't throw much on second down, but when you have the wind and you're only going to have it for 8 more minutes, I think that would have been a good time to throw on second down.
The Giants have McCaffrey and Jackson split wide to the right. Meggett's in the backfield. Callaway is wide left. Jackson in motion. The Vikings jumped offside. Sims is still going to go through with the play, and he does. That's Derek Brown scrambling, and he's got enough for a first down. Stopped by Roy Parker.
Yeah, the Vikings are going to figure it out sometime that it's third down is when they're doing that. Now, if it were the Vikings who were offsides, that was a free play for Phil Simms. The Vikings are arguing that it was against the Giants that they drew him offsides.
Let's see.
But the Vikings do jump offsides a lot.
There was a double foul on the play. Offsides by the defense, number 92. Illegal motion by the offense, the tailback. The penalty's offset. A replay third down.
Now let's see if they jump. I bet you they don't.
Now the guy that jumped that time was Roy Barker. They already had gotten Chris Dolman on 2 third down plays. They got Barker on a third down play. I know they say that they don't care about it, but I think at some point you better say, hey, we do care about it. Let's be aggressive. Let's rush the passer. Let's do all those things, but let's watch the ball and not jump off sides.
It's 3rd and 8. Meggett remains. Jackson comes wide left. McCaffrey's in the slot to the Simms right. And Simms is back to throw it. He has time. He did have time. Now Phil Simms takes off, and he's going to be short of a first down. I believe it's going to be close. Very close.
And I think, again, this whole thing, aggressive, you have the wind, you have to be aggressive. I think if the Giants are short, I think they have to go for it here on 4th down.
And here comes the unit to go for it. And Dan Reeves agrees with you. It's 4th and short. They're going to measure. That much left. Simms has been over for his visit. It's going to be Hampton and Bunch behind Phil Simms.
And you would think that it would be a Jared Bunch lead and a Hampton run. I think, it doesn't look like far. Maybe you could quarterback sneak it, but I think you better get the lead and you better get it to your best running back.
The Vikings have a player right in front of Bart Oates. The center, Hampton, has it. First down, Giants. First and 10 at the 15. Callaway left, Jackson right. They go in a hurry. Rodney Hampton cuts back, and Hampton is inside the 10. Tripped up by Audrey McMillan.
I think one thing the Giants, and they did this a week ago, Pat, remember, against the Dallas Cowboys? They didn't look like they were real aggressive. They didn't look like they had anything in sync in the first half. They went in at halftime. They came out in the second half, and they really played the Cowboys tough last week. They're doing the same thing here today.
Dan Reed said it was not an inspirational speech that did it. They just did it. Hampton, the surge gets him down to about the 8. Stopped by Henry Thomas.
Well, you know one thing, their offensive line is starting to take over now. I mean, that big run by Hampton, we saw Riesenberg out there, one of the most underrated guys on this team. A guy that's always there, you don't talk about much, but he and Howard Cross, one of the best blocking tight ends in the game. I think this group here has really taken control in this third quarter.
3rd and 2. Hampton is the setback. Passing formation. But Hampton gets the carry. Hampton is down to the 2. Fred Strickland made the stop. Again, all this done with the wind. It'll be 1st and goal at the 2.
When Rodney Hampton was saying, you know, he said, I just hope we get to the running game and we stick to it. And again, you can see that he's in the flow of the running game, that he has the feel of it now.
Hampton's 2nd touchdown of the day. And the Giants go ahead 16-10.
The Giants, the offensive line, and Rodney Hampton came over and have taken over this second half.
Hampton has 23 carries, 128 yards, and both Giant touchdowns.
And Reeves was aggressive. That 4th down, he did what he had to. He went for it.
Treadwell, the extra point is botched. Treadwell's going to take off with it, and he gets in anyway. The snap was bobbled by the holder, Horan, and Treadwell ran in for the extra point. Here's a touchdown.
Again, good block by Bob Cratch there. Cratch was the guy that made the block that got Hampton into the end zone. And who says kickers can't run, Pat? Look at Treadwell. Turn it on. Turn on those burners. Speed kills.
What really a burner. We're in the 3rd quarter of the NFC wild card game between the Giants and the Vikings at 17-10. DeLuisa to kick off with the wind. Ismail standing back deep for Minnesota. So's kick is going to be fielded at the 1, fumbled at the 1 by Ismail, still fumbling. Out of bounds at the 5-yard line. And that's where the Vikings will start from, right at the 5.
Watch Bob Cratch on the touchdown play. He's here. He's going to start off on John Randall, then come up and get Fred Strickland. He gets 2. The interesting thing about this play, Pat, is that they didn't huddle up. This was a no-huddle play. Watch Cratch there. Comes off the block. Boom, you start the block there. Throw your arm. Come up, get this guy. Rodney Hampton sees that, gets right in behind Bob Cratch. And again, that play was no huddle. The Giants ran the play before that, just got up in the line of scrimmage and ran that play and said, Cratch, you get 2. Hampton, you get right in behind him.
It'll be 1st and 10 Minnesota when this timeout, when they get things started on the field. Starting field position for the Vikings has averaged their own 8 against the wind. This time they're at the 4. McMahon to throw. Flag on the play. The pass is knocked down by Michael Brooks and Carlton Bailey. It was intended for Derek Tennell. But a penalty marker down. They could be further back if the Giants choose to accept the penalty.
Prior to the snap, false start by the offense number 80. Half the distance to the goal, it remains first down.
Prior to the snap, so they have to accept the penalty, but it'll still be first down. Chris Carter moved ahead of time.
The one thing that the Minnesota Vikings, if they stay alive, that they ought to work on is getting everyone off together. I mean, both offensively and defensively, those are penalties that you shouldn't have. I mean, guys shouldn't be jumping on offense. I don't care what you say, and guys shouldn't be jumping on defense, especially on third down.
They've been penalized 5 times. The Giants, none. McMahon back in the end zone to throw it. Anthony Carter had it and juggled it and kept it. That's a big catch by Anthony Carter, covered by Greg Jackson. And a good throw by McMahon.
Yeah, that's what we talk about McMahon. You know that he can't do it. You know that he can't make that throw. He gets in his own end zone, throws it out there to Anthony Carter again against that 2-deep zone. Corner has the short, the safety is deep, and you throw it between the short corner and the safety coming over.
First down, Minnesota, and that gives them a little breathing room.
And it takes a little time off the clock and gets them into the fourth quarter, which the Vikings would want to do.
Chris Carter is the man on the move. The handoff is to Graham, and he just slips down in his own backfield. A loss of yardage.
You know who's playing well here is Mike Fox today. You want to, again, as the ball starts away from you, the backside always wants to be in the lane so that there's no cutback. You see the Giants playing the cutback. There's no place to cut back, so Scotty Graham just runs right into his own guy.
The bottom of that pile is Lawrence Taylor.
Well, watch him. He reads that block. He sees McDaniel coming, and he gets right underneath it and makes a pile.
McMahon back to throw it. Struggles out of the pocket, chased by the Giants, and runs out of bounds and is dragged down. And here's a flag on the play. Unnecessary roughness is going to be called against Keith Hamilton. Miller also involved, and he was well out of bounds. You can't really complain too much about that penalty call.
Yeah, because they should have known it. He was trying to get out of bounds, too. Now, the one official took him a while to call it. He didn't call it right away. He waited. And the one thing...
Personal foul. Unnecessary roughness on the defense. Pull the man unnecessarily down out of bounds. 15 yards, automatic first down.
And what Hamilton is saying is he was still on the field, and I think he's right. Watch him. He grabs him here. He's still in there. He's still on the field. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Keith Hamilton got a bad call against him. You can't do that. I mean, he's still playing. The guy's going. He grabs him. Watch him. He grabbed him while he was still in bounds and then rolled him out of bounds. That was a bad penalty.
It's 1st and 10 Minnesota at the 40. This is Scotty Graham skipping out to about the 44. Stopped by Michael Brooks.
Hey, Jim McMahon is back there and limping, and I'm not sure, you know, he has trouble seeing the signals. He has to walk halfway over to the sideline to get the signals. Looks like on one thing he has a little daze from that slight concussion. He looks like he's limping.
Outside of that, he's fine. Second down and 6. McMahon fakes to Graham. Fakes again. Gets the pass off to Steve Jordan. And McMahon is still down after he took another hit.
And that was Mike Fox again. I think what McMahon did is he used the ball to make a fake. Watch him, he fakes here, and then he uses a ball to fake out a defender, to fake out Lawrence Taylor. You see him fake Taylor there with the ball, and that made him hold it a little longer, and Mike Fox, number 93, came from the backside.
McMahon still down. Do we have a 3 knockdown rule?
You see the first time Lawrence Taylor's there. You see it, he fakes the ball, brings it back to get it away from Taylor. Then he holds it a little longer to complete it, and there's Mike Fox.
And his head hit the ground, and he stayed there.
You know, I think
he's some warrior. Third and very short. McMahon still down. Sean Salisbury loosening up. NFC wild card game. The Giants leading the Vikings 17-10. Jim McMahon under pressure, and he has been.
Well, you can see he was hurried 10 times. He's been knocked down twice, but both of those knockdowns have also been knockouts and have knocked him out of the game.
Third and short. Sean Salisbury is the quarterback. McMahon in the backfield with Scotty Graham. First down, Minnesota. They're doing this against the wind.
And what the Minnesota Vikings do on short yardage is they put their all-pro left guard Randall McDaniel in there, and he's going to be the lead blocker. And of course, Scotty Graham just gets right in behind him. So when he's in there, you know where the ball's going. He's going to lead you to it. Graham knows who he's supposed to follow. His all-pro guard who's playing as a fullback in short yardage.
First and 10, Minnesota. Anthony Carter is the man in motion. The handoff is to Scotty Graham. Into the secondary and close to another Minnesota first down. Stopped by Raymond.
Phil Simms again has to stay warm over there, and that's one thing that a drive like this, you remember this drive, McMahon was a big part of it. This drive started, they had him backed up, they got the penalty, they were playing out of their own end zone, but the Minnesota Vikings have done a good job going into the wind on this drive.
They really have.
And they just have to play to get into the fourth quarter now.
And they're still checking McMahon. Now they'll measure.
Yeah, I think if a guy has had a concussion or has a concussion, he shouldn't play anymore. I don't agree with that. I mean, they always talk about boxing and boxing being archaic, but if a fighter gets knocked out, he can't fight for another month. And sometimes in football we say, oh, the guy has a slight concussion, he'll be right back in. I don't know that I ever agreed with that.
McMahon doesn't look comfortable with the way he feels. Second and short. Minnesota at the Giant 39. The Giants leading 17-10. Chris Carter in motion. And off to Graham. He'll have the first down, still on his feet. The surge gets him to the 44.
I'll tell you, the Minnesota Vikings have either softened the middle of this defense up there or they've found a soft spot in there, because Scotty Graham has made some good yardage in there these last two plays, and it looked relatively easy.
Word from the Vikings is that Jim McMahon has a bruised left shoulder to go along with all the other problems. So Salisbury is the quarterback with Scotty Graham behind him. And he faked. Salisbury throws to Jordan, and he dropped it. Was there. Good throw. Jesse Armstead on the coverage.
Yeah, the wind won't bother Sean Salisbury as much as it would Jim McMahon or even Phil Simms, because the one thing that Sean Salisbury has is a strong arm. And it takes a strong arm to be able to throw a tight spiral into a wind.
That ball was perfectly thrown by Salisbury. Second down. Minnesota, a good-looking drive. The handoff fake. Handoff outside to Jordan, who makes the catch this time. And is down at about the 27 by Michael Brooks. Not a first down.
And you can tell that Steve Jordan has a bad knee there, because what he would have liked to have done, you see the brace on the right knee there, he would have liked to have planted that right leg and just bowl and try and get a first down, and he couldn't. He just kind of had to stand there and take the tackle.
Clock running down with the Vikings. 3rd and 3, running down in the third quarter. Anthony Carter in motion. Salisbury. The pass was caught and dropped, incomplete. Anthony Carter had it and saw it go through his arms. And we're going to see Rivez, I believe.
Yeah, and he's going to have to kick the ball into the wind because there's nothing that they can do about it. Now, like you say, Carter had the ball. That was a good throw. Carter had the ball.
They're going to go for it,
He just
John.
dropped it.
No Rivez. On 4th and short, they're going for it against the wind.
Well, they probably figured it. You know, they do this in the pregame warm-up. Sean Salisbury's taking a timeout now, but they always go into pregame warm-up and determine at what point you can kick a field goal. He probably couldn't kick it this far in the pregame warm-up.
I don't think he could either. Daluiso, who's a very strong leg, I know couldn't. 26 seconds left in the third quarter of the NFC wild card game between the Vikings and the Giants. It's 4th, and the Vikings need about 3 yards.
And Denny Green is probably thinking that that's the longest quarter he's ever been involved in his life, the third quarter of this game, because things have changed dramatically for his Vikings.
The Giants got 2 touchdowns. He had the lead 10-3, and now he's behind 17-10. Anthony Carter in motion. Salisbury will throw it over the middle to Jordan, who is hammered by Armstead. The ball is over his head, and the Giants take over. Almost took his head off.
Yeah, the ball had already gone through there before Armstead almost took his head off. See, they were thinking there that they were going to throw the ball twice, because if they were going for a field goal, what they could have done was run on 3rd down, got into the 4th quarter, and kicked the field goal going the other direction. But I think they were figuring, you know, let's be aggressive. We're the underdog. We're on the road. Let's go for 2 passes. Because if you were going for a field goal, you would have run on 3rd down, run out the clock, got into the 4th quarter, kicked it going the other way.
1st and 10 Giants. The ball at their own 27. Sims has almost got a throw. Going deep. Incomplete. Intended for Callaway. That'll stop the clock, and they'll have a chance to throw it again.
Yeah, one thing that they have to watch out for is if you're gonna throw it, then you would hope that you would be able to punt it in, you know, with the wind too. But if you throw it, then get into the 4th quarter and then have to punt it into the wind.
Yep.
So you got, you know, in this game, when you play here in January in a game like this, you got all kinds of different strategies in addition to the football.
A lot of thinking going on. Here's Sims back to throw. Screen pass coming up to Hampton. And he is tripped up immediately by Jack Del Rio, and what a play he made. And the clock continues to run on the pass completion, the screen pass completion. That's the end of the third quarter with the score. The Giants 17, the Vikings 10. Our coverage will continue after this message from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Madden team,
yep.
10th annual.
We don't know who's going to be on it or where or anything. We just got some of those guys running around just to air them out a little.
And they've all carried a torch. Somebody jumped again. Might have been Bob Kratz that moved early. Ed Hockley will let us know.
False start prior to the snap by the offense, number 61. 5-yard penalty. It remains 3rd down.
Once again, you're in the shotgun. Now, Kratz is in a thing. He doesn't have a hand down. That's a pass protection position, if you wonder that what you call that position.
I call it a hunker.
Yeah, it's a hunker. Well, he's hunkered down all ready to take away that inside move, stepping with that inside foot, but he did it too soon.
Sims comes out of the pocket again, throws the screen pass to Meggett. Meggett's surge gets up to about the 29, just short of the 30. Not enough for the first down. Chris Dolman chased him down, and the Giants will have to punt against the wind, which I believe, unless I'm badly wrong, has diminished just a little bit.
I don't know that it ever does. I mean, you know, the Vikings again are short. You see that they have a guy on each number. They're playing for that directional punt.
Anthony Carter and Chris Carter back for Horan's punt. Anthony Parker and Anthony Carter it is. Horan gets off a pretty good kick this time. Parker signals fair catch, and the Vikings will take over at their own 30. 40-yard kick. Well done.
This game summary is sponsored by Budweiser.
Rodney Hampton of the Giants, 2 touchdowns, 23 carries, 128 yards. Jim McMahon, the Viking quarterback, has been knocked out twice. Minnesota 58 rushing yards, the Giants 145, most of it by Hampton.
If you watch that last punt, Pat, you're going to see that Anthony Parker here really should have returned this ball. They're waiting for the directional kick. They didn't get it. But there was no one, if we stop it now, there was no one within 15 yards of Anthony Parker.
Scotty Graham tripped up as he crosses the 30 to the 31 by Mark Collins.
Yeah, one of the things about this Minnesota Viking team that has really hurt them all year, they've played solid defense, good defense all year. Their offense has been up and down, but has kind of come along in the last 3 or 4 games. But their special teams has never really been a strength, and in some games has gotten them beaten.
We saw one against New Orleans. Tice and Tennell are the 2 tight ends. And the handoff is to Graham. Scotty Graham into Giant territory across the 50 to the 48. Stopped by Guyton and Jackson.
Yeah, the one thing Scotty Graham says is when you run and you're going to start to the left, the guy you have to sell is this nose tackle. Sell that you're going here before you can cut back. Now, if you can sell him that you're coming here, then you can make that move to the backside. And you'll see that he starts left, then he sells it right there. He sold the nose tackle. That got Howard blocked. Then he could make that cutback.
Now they go with 4 wide receivers. Salisbury taking a long time. But has time. And sacked back at the 45 by Mike Fox again. He's had a big game.
Mike Fox is playing the best that I've ever seen him. I mean, he has made big plays. This is his. He was a guy that hit McMahon twice. He's the guy that gets Salisbury here. They spread out. You see the pass rush. Fox is coming from the inside. And right there, he gets Sean Salisbury. Fox plays outside on regular things, and he plays inside on passing down.
On 2nd down, Salisbury is back. Has Carter open, but it was tipped way back at the line of scrimmage by Corey Miller.
And as you say, Corey Miller tips that, and it's lucky that it was tipped. It was Lawrence Taylor who tipped it, but it was lucky that it was tipped because Anthony Carter is wide open down there. Watch Lawrence Taylor. Sometimes things happen downfield, sometimes at the line of scrimmage. That one happened at the line of scrimmage.
3rd and 15. Salisbury fakes the draw play, throws. It'll be a Viking first down. It's Chris Carter. Lost the ball, and the Giants get it. Popped out of his hands, caught by Greg Jackson. Greg Jackson caught the ball in midair after it came loose from Carter.
That was a perfect throw to Chris Carter there. You see him. He's running that slant inside. He has the ball. He starts to run to make a move. The ball just bobbles out. Greg Jackson has come across, and it just comes right into his hand. Which Carter's starting to make moves. The ball comes out from behind. He tips it once and tips it right into Greg Jackson. Whoop.
And so the Giants take over at their own 15. And now they're operating against the wind.
I think it was Myron Guyton, though, that came in from behind and knocked that ball out of Chris Carter's hands.
I think you're right. 1st and 10. Tillman is the deep back. Toss back to Lewis Tillman. There's nothing there. The Vikings converge in a hurry. It'll make 2nd and about 12. Let's see what happens to Guyton.
Yeah, well, you're going to see Guyton, number 29. See him come back in there and reach in there with that right hand. That knocked it out of Chris Carter's right hand into his left hand. Then he bounced it with his left hand right into Greg Jackson.
It is 2nd and 12. Hampton back deep. Gets the carry. Hampton comes back, and Hampton. Another good run by Rodney Hampton. Gets outside the 20. Dolman on the stop. Both teams today have scored with the wind, none against the wind.
Well, I think you knew that coming in, that, you know, unless there was going to be some running type drive, that's the way it was going to be, because I think both teams' approach, although the Minnesota approach in the first half wasn't as conservative, but both teams' approach has been poor field position and more conservative play going into the win.
3rd and 3. Hampton is the lead back. Will not get to carry, and Sims dumps it to Hampton. And he struggles for a first down. The pass from Sims to Hampton will move the sticks.
You know, one thing we were talking about the All-Madden team, and, you know, and having the 10th anniversary and all that. This is one guy that's going to be on it.
How about Phil Sims?
Well, Phil Sims will be on it too. But Rodney Hampton, the way that he played in the second half of last week's game, where he just came out there against the Cowboys and took it to them. Although they didn't win, they went into overtime. And the way he's played the second half of this game.
He's been terrific. Henry Thomas just limped off. McMahon loosening up again. First down, Giants at their own 27. They'll take their time now. That's Hampton. Falls forward for a couple. Stopped by Dolman.
You know, against Phoenix, it looked like he was getting hit and going down easy first half. But in the second half of last week's game, and this, you can see the first guy got him 4, second guy 9, third 9, and 4 or more 8 times. So Rodney Hampton, if you're going to tackle him, you better bring a whole bunch of guys.
25 carries, 139 yards for Hampton. Second down, about 8. Pierce in motion, Sims to Hampton. Not much this time, but he still surges forward for a couple outside the 30. Stopped by Ed McDaniel. Yards after contact, 93.
Well, he's made 160 yards, and then of those 160, he's made 93 yards after the first contact. So I think that in the first half, I think the Vikings were really doing a good job of crisp tackling, but I don't think they have in the second half.
Third down. No offside. Sims had a man in his face, gets it on to Hampton. And tremendous strength surge by Hampton gets him up to the 35, but not enough for a first down.
One thing they were worried, you watch Chris Dolman here, they were worried, how is Eric Moore going to do against Chris Dolman? I think Eric Moore has done a good job all day against Chris Dolman. Dolman tried to take an inside there, got a little help from Brian Williams, but, you know, they keep a tight end on that side. They've given him a little help, but Eric Moore has also played well today.
Moran back to punt. Lines it. Fair caught by Anthony Carter. About as well as he could do against the wind. First down, Minnesota, 34-yard punt.
Great time to stop and smell the pizza.
The Giants lead 17-10. There's Jim McMahon. The Vikings have the ball. The handoff is to Gray. He got a yard. Stopped by Brooks.
Now, Michael Brooks, they thought that, you know, he hurt his foot. He had like a sprained foot, and they thought they were going to put it in a cast, and he had missed 5 or 6 weeks, and he missed 2 or 3 weeks, and he's not playing at 100%, but I think just his presence out there really helps this Giant defense.
2nd and 9. Salisbury back to throw. Gets it upfield, complete at midfield to Chris Carter. And now they're saying incomplete. Carter came up with the ball. It'll bring up a big 3rd down for Minnesota. Let's look again.
The Vikings have been finding open areas right in here in this Giant defense. And they've been having trouble with it, you know, like dropping the ball, catching it, and having a fumble after that, having the ball tipped and so on. This one here is a good throw.
3rd and 9. They're 1 out of 12 on 3rd down situation. Salisbury, the ball gets away from him, and they'll have to punt. Collins is hurt.
Collins has been gutting it up all day, Pat. That left knee. We saw him yesterday in the locker room, and he could hardly walk, and I didn't see there was any way he would be able to play cornerback in this game, and he's been doing it all day.
He was walking just about like that.
That's how he was walking. You say there's no way that the guy can play, but talk about a tough guy. I'll tell you, Mark Collins is, and he's had a heck of a year. He just got that at the end of his somersault.
Newsom back to punt it to Dave Megan. High kick. Megan's going to handle it and go right down. At about the 18, make it to 17, where the Giants will take over, and now the clock becomes very much a factor.
The New York Giants are playoff bound, partly due to a couple of defensive additions this year. One is their leading tackler, the other their spiritual leader. Number 54, Carlton Bailey, and Michael Brooks, number 94. A pair of hard-charging linebackers who've made the 93 Giants the best they can be.
It'll be one of these two teams, the Vikings or the Giants, against the 49ers at Candlestick next week. The Packers will play the Cowboys here on CBS next week. 1st and 10, Giants. Hampton is the lone setback. Phil Simms will take his time. To Rodney Hampton. Hit by McMillan. There was a hole for a moment. McMillan filled it.
Yeah, this is how you can tell, Pat, that it's really cold out. When you got to take a stick and you got to stick it in your Gatorade so you can loosen it up.
Got to be a song there, breaking up that old Gatorade of mine. Or
here's what I like, though. Look at the guy.
With his
when
fingers.
You're sticking stick in there, you don't know where that stick's been. Then you might as well stick your fingers in there, too. And then who's going to drink it? You know, when you get in the game, you don't even care.
No.
Who cares where stuff's been?
Drink it anyway. 2nd down. Simms gives to Hampton. Hampton's got some room. Gets up to the 25. You know, we've talked about many times, where are the best sports fans anywhere? These people who come to the Giant games, and I've been here as a player and a long time as an announcer, they are the best. They're the most loyal. In weather conditions like this, they've had sellout after sellout. I like to pay tribute.
Yeah, and I think you should. I mean, not only, you know, are they the loyal fans, but they're knowledgeable fans, and they understand football and they understand defense, and that's what I like. I mean, they understand down, distance, situation, all those things.
It's been a long time, and I'd just like to say thank you. Simms looking, has a lot of time now. Just grounds it and throws it out of bounds.
That's it, all right.
And then you wonder how they survive. I mean, if the Gatorade is frozen, I mean, you know that. I mean, you got to take the stick to the Gatorade. I mean, how do these people do it?
Well, there are things that you could do to keep the Gatorade from freezing.
What's that?
The Giants Giants will have to punt.
Sometimes it gets so cold your mask doesn't even fit. You can't even get your eyes in the eye hole.
Duran's kick is a good one. Handled by Anthony Carter. He slides away from tacklers and gets to the 47-yard line. Stopped by Whitmer.
You know, over the years, Pat, you think of big play guys. You know, and Anthony Carter is one of those guys. I mean, he's, you know, Chris Carter catches more passes now and all that stuff, but if you need a big play guy, you look for him.
And McMahon is back. With Scotty Graham behind him, Jim McMahon gives Graham the handoff. There's nothing, and McMahon is going to have to throw it. They're not going to catch up with the wind like that.
This front line, here you see Keith Hamilton playing this side, but this front line has done an excellent job of these Giants today. I mean, they've gotten penetration, they've gotten into the backfield. Keith Hamilton was the guy that, you know, got there along with Fox to knock down McMahon and so on, but they've been as active today, this front three of the Giants, as I've seen them in a long time.
Here's McMahon to Graham, who dropped it. Not going to do any good to pick it up in a hurry. It's still going to be down there.
Yeah, Scotty Graham dropped that one. We remember Chris Carter had the one before he's running three. He drops one. See, these fans know this. They know third down. They know third and long. They know the quarterback can't hear. They know that they can't audibilize. These fans know this down and distance.
The trumpet might be frozen, but you can still play it. Here's McMahon. Incomplete. Ismail had it, juggled it, and lost it. It's Collins back in the game, made the hit.
When you talk about guys and gutsy guys, you have to say that, you know, Mark Collins, he was injured in practice last Thursday it was.
Nice, staying in on the special teams.
He's an amazing guy.
He really is.
And you have to give that credit.
This will be the 8th Minnesota punt. Newsom's kick is good and high. Megan signals fair catch. Made it. And down to the ground at the 17, where the Giants will take over 1st and 10. They lead 17-10.
You know, you see guys like Mark Collins walking off the field. You see Jim McMahon, Warriors, and, you know, that makes football kind of pure. I mean, these guys are getting paid $7,500 for this game. But everyone is laying it on the line, giving everything they got. This game isn't about money. This game is about playoffs. This game is about finality. It's about the winner going on and playing the 49ers. It's about the loser being through for the year.
The winner of this plays the 49ers next week. That'll be on Saturday. Then on Sunday at 12:30, the Cowboys entertain the Packers. Hampton is behind Bunch. Just over 4 minutes remaining. Hampton hit by Del Rio. And Lamar McGriggs.
You know, a side over there that's done a heck of a job all day is Bob Cratch. And, you know, guys that on this Giant team that don't get much credit, it's Cratch and Riesenberg. You know, you talk about Jumbo Elliott when he's playing and Roberts and Oates and so on, but these guys have really done a good job, I think, all year.
Week after week.
And you never mention them. You know, and these are the guys that, when the big plays come, a lot of Rodney Hampton's big plays have been on that side.
And they've been nicked up, they've been hurt, but they've played all year long. Here's Sims to Hampton. Rodney Hampton tries to stretch it out for a first down. McGriggs made the tackle. The Giants own the time of possession, as they usually do. 3rd down and about a yard or a yard and a half. 3. plus left in the ball game and the trip to San Francisco. That's next Saturday, the winner of this game. 3rd and 1. Pointing to his left, they send Jackson in motion. The give is to Hampton. First down, Giants. That's a big one.
And again, Hampton's going to take that ball and he's going to run it right in there. He's going to take it right in there behind these guys and say, this is where we want to go. Let's whap it right up in there. Brian Williams is the center. Bob Cratch again gets his guy turned, and that's the hole.
And that's where they went. Minnesota takes a timeout. Now they have only 31 carries for Hampton, 160 yards.
And I'll tell you, these fans enjoy that. They knew that that was a big 3rd down play. They didn't want to have to punt then with 3 minutes to go, punt into the wind. By getting that gives them more time. It makes the Minnesota Vikings take a timeout. And I think it lets the Giants fans start to celebrate, but you don't want to celebrate too soon.
Minnesota led at the half. Lawrence Taylor. You know, you hate to even think about it being the last game for Lawrence Taylor at Giant Stadium. Look at his career, John. I know he's always been a favorite of ours, and you're just filled with admiration.
One of the best linebackers that I've ever seen in my life. And when you talk about dominant players, Lawrence Taylor was at one time a dominant player. I never really felt that a defensive player by himself could win a game, but there was a defensive player that could win a game by himself, and we've seen him do it.
And he was a guy where when you played and when you went to cover somebody playing the Giants, they would always say, the first thing we got to do is find out where number 56 is. First down.
There you go.
Hampton stopped by Barker. Today's game was produced by Bob Stinner and directed by Sandy Grossman. Thank you, gentlemen. Coordinating producer of the NFL today is Eric Mann, directed by Larry Cavallina. The senior producer of the NFL on CBS is Ed Gorin. The executive in charge of production is Rick Gentile. Mark Collins. Talk about your Warriors, competitors. Minnesota out of timeouts.
Guys that know it, you know, have been there, been in playoffs. Dan Reeves, the job that he's done. Dan Reeves was one of those guys that could take yours or take his and get to playoffs. He did it at Denver. Came here to the Giants, and in his first year,
his first move really of consequence was to say to Phil Simms, hey, you're my quarterback.
Isn't that interesting that Reeves came here and he's in the playoffs and left John Elway by himself and he's in the playoffs. Got rid of Jeff Hostetler to the Raiders and he's in the playoff. Kept Phil Simms and he's in the playoffs. So maybe all 4 of those guys, Dan Reeves, John Elway, Jeff Hostetler, and Phil Simms, are pretty good.
Interesting, they all have Super Bowl experience. And they're all still in the playoffs.
Come on.
Simms on the reverse to Mark Jackson. Jackson stopped. Stringing out as long as you can. A reverse takes longer time to get to the side of the field. That goes back a long time in football. 2 minutes left. The Giants lead by a touchdown. Back at Giant Stadium, the NFC wild card game. Pat Summerall with John Madden. The Giants leading the Vikings 17-10. The Vikings led at the half. Tim Irwin has had perhaps the best year for him he's ever had.
That's ironic. You talk about Tim Irwin, that you know, and money and players and what they stand for. Tim Irwin is a lawyer, and Bart Oates is a lawyer. So in this game, we have a league record. We have 2 starting offensive players that are lawyers.
Hampton, come on.
Hampton.
Come on. That's it.
And the Giants will have to punt it. Jack Del Rio made the stop, and Tim Irwin and his offensive crew of the Vikings will get another chance to operate with no timeouts.
There's Bart Oates coming in to snap this ball. He's the other lawyer.
Right now, he's not thinking about legal terms.
No, he's sure not. He's thinking he has the advantage. I mean, he gets to snap with the wind. The punter has to kick into the wind. So the snapper gets the advantage, and the punter doesn't.
Bart Oates, good snap. Vikings put the heat on. Horan's punt is off the side of his foot, and it's going to bounce out of bounds at about the 43, where the Vikings will take over. 27-yard punt. They put the heat on him.
Yeah, he had a good snap, but said he got it on his foot, but he's lucky that he got it on his foot. But now this is what it's all about, Pat. This is defense. These people have grown up on defense. They know that defense is what's gotten them here.
Nobody's sitting down.
No, no one's leaving. You know, they've ever had defense. This is when you need defense.
1:05 left. McMahon back to throw it. Has time. Going deep for Anthony Carter. Incomplete. Greg Jackson back with him. You tell me that McMahon can throw the ball that far, I wouldn't have believed you.
He can, but he has the adrenaline there, and it was right in Anthony Carter's hands. Felipe Sparks, number 22, was there, but Greg Jackson was the guy that made the play.
2nd and 10. Minnesota with no timeouts left. 57 seconds remain. The winner to go to San Francisco next week to play the 49ers. 2nd down. Taylor rushing. McMahon arm is hit. And he's down, struggling again. Don't forget to stay with us on the NFL postgame show. Join Greg Terry and Charles Mann for a complete wrap-up of today's game.
Once he tried to go a little play fake, Lawrence Taylor was coming in from behind. Canavis McGee hit him in the front. I'll tell you, McMahon is really hurting.
3rd down and 10. McMahon limps back to throw it. Wheels it outside for a 1st down to Jake Reed. But they'll have to hurry. They have no timeouts. McMahon gets himself together and hurries the Viking offensive up.
He'll just throw the ball down and stop the clock.
To stop it. Again, back to the post-game show. Live interviews with the winners and losers. Matt Millen reports on the field from the Denver-Los Angeles Raider AFC wildcard game. Green Bay Packer head coach Mike Holmgren will join us live to talk about the Packers' big finish yesterday. That's all coming up on the NFL Today postgame show. This crowd of these fans.
Well, you know, earlier, Pat, they were yelling defense, defense. Now they're yelling LT, LT.
They know. He has talked about retiring. Here's McMahon. Chris Conner. The catch. I'm not sure.
See, and the fans know that. They gave him the catch, but what the fans were going against is they stopped the clock. The fans wanted him to say that he didn't get out of bounds.
25 seconds left. Here's the end of the play again.
See, what they were watching is they said that he didn't get out of bounds.
Yeah, he did.
He did get out of bounds. He fumbled the ball out of bounds.
Dan Reeves off with the hat. 25 seconds on 3rd and 7. McMahon to throw it. Yes, it's a catch. There is a flag. Flag on the play. Jake Reed made the catch.
There's a hat and a flag, and it's against the Vikings. usually means that the receiver went out of bounds. So at the back judge, when he threw his hat, that was that someone went out of bounds. Now you can't go out of bounds and come back in and be the first guy to catch the ball.
That's what happened. So they'll move it the other direction.
Went out of bounds, came back in, was the first to touch the ball. The foul's on the offense. There's a loss of down.
Loss of
Brings
down.
up fourth down.
That's the big part of the penalty.
See, you're going to see it out here on the, it'll be out here on the left side. You see that he can't go out of bounds. When he goes out of bounds, right there, and then he came back in.
Good call.
He just had a foot out of bounds and then back in.
So it's fourth down. McMahon. Sack. But a flag on the play. Sacked by Hamilton. But a penalty marker on the play. McMahon again struggling to his feet.
And we talk about the job that this defensive line of the Giants did today.
On the offense, number 76.
They got to decline it.
Penalties decline, first down.
Could be it for Lawrence Taylor, but more importantly, the Giants are going to head west.
If it's it for Lawrence Taylor, it's only it for Lawrence Taylor here in Giant Stadium, because they're playing the 49ers, like you say, next week. The fans are chanting LT, LT. I think they want him to take a victory lap, Pat.
I don't think he will.
Knowing LT, he's not going to take any victory laps.
12 seconds remain. Jackson behind Sims, who will just take it and rest a while with it. The clock is running. It'll be next week the Giants and the 49ers. The Giants win the NFC wild card game after being behind at the half. 2 touchdowns by Rodney Hampton in the third quarter. 1 on a 51-yard run. The final score here at Giant Stadium is the Giants 17, the Vikings 10. Stay tuned for the NFL Today postgame show. You're watching CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League.
Jim?
Okay, thank you very much, Greg. We're joined by Lawrence Taylor. And Lawrence, tell us about the wind factor today. All the points were scored with the wind.
Well, it was very windy out there, very cold, and I guess that's the reason why we decided to defend first and give them the ball and then have the wind in our favor, because it was brutal. It was a big difference going one side to the other.
When you talk about shutting them down, just the one big play, that was the only play that was given up all day?
Well, yeah, that was a big play. I thought we had their offense pretty well in hand, and they weren't really able to do a lot of different things against us. We felt pretty good about what we was doing, and just that one play, they had a breakdown. We had a breakdown somewhere, and they scored. One of the things that happened.
Fans were chanting LT, LT. Was this your last game here at Giant Stadium?
Well, we've still got other games to play right now for this playoff, and I don't really want to really get into all that, because that's not going to help us on Sunday. So,
was it emotional for you? Was it emotional for you?
It was a good game. I really have enjoyed the time I spent here in Giant Stadium, and if that's my last game in Giant Stadium, then so be it. But I have enjoyed whatever time I spent in there.
Congratulations, Lawrence. Great game.
Thank you very much.
Let's go across the way to Leslie Visser with the Vikings. Leslie?
Jim, never were the words, may the wind be always at your back, more true. All the points were scored with the wind at the back. I'm here with Coach Dennis Green. Dennis, you led at the half. How did it slip away?
Well, I think their run offense in the third quarter, I think that was a big difference. We don't normally give up that kind of yardage. And then I think that we never really could get our offense in sync in the second half.
What about on that last drive? Did you think that Jake Reed was in bounds?
He was in bounds. He was never out of bounds at any time. They said he was out of bounds before the ball was caught, but he wasn't.
Could you talk a little bit about Jim McMahon, what a warrior he was today?
Well, Jim was tough. You know, he came out of the game a couple of times, went back in, took some real big hits. The Giants are an excellent football team, and they played some tremendous defense. But Jim stayed in there and wanted to get back in the ball game. We gave him a chance when we're trying to pull it out.
Congratulations to you. Second year you went to the playoffs. Back to you.
All right, Leslie, thanks very much. So the Giants win it by a score of 17-10. We'll take a timeout here and come back and talk live with Mike Holmgren, head coach of the Green Bay Packers, in just a moment.
Is the NBC television network.
The quest for Super Bowl 28.